The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You have land, Dennis.
Yeah.
Okay, your own land. You use your own money to build it, and then you sell it to yourself.
But we don't want foreign troops on Kenyan soil.
But surely it goes a little bit deeper. This is it.
If you find a tree is withering, then you call the person who is managing that tree. Come around.
Yeah,
Why? Tell me what is
first of all, what's the problem?
Yes, what is the problem there?
How do we expect ourselves to move forward as a country?
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
He is himself actually has admitted that he bribed members of parliament.
He admitted that he bribed members of parliament?
Well, when he said
The government.
yeah, when he said that he gave the 10 million was for what?
We're always quick to point faults in somebody else before you look at your own faults as a person.
If it was Kanu's day, hii amuka naye leo ungekuwa umeenda mbali sana hii. So and we must celebrate you.
There are 600 million people now globally estimated to be living with diabetes in the world. So it is a major health problem. It's the largest single disease rising pandemic that we're dealing with right now.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing politics of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
when you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
We look at the utterances of leaders who are aligned to broad-based, who were initially in ODM. We thought they stand for something. Now they've been exposed.
Because we are a third world country, we are poor. And not because we don't have resources, but we have been robbed senseless.
Look at the wasteful expenditure. Look at how large government lives. And we've said this is something that can be controlled. It happens in many other countries.
Internally, we used to stand and tell him, boss, hii kitu ni mbaya. And you'd say, now he doesn't let me tell you, you saw the other parliamentary group meeting. People went there, sat, listened, looked at him. There was no plenary, left.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Woo. I'm arranging everything properly first before I open my mouth.
Please do. How are you?
Oh, fine, thank you.
Have you finished arranging everything?
Okay. Now that I'll open my mouth and say a very, very good morning. Good morning to you.
Mm-hmm.
How are you?
I'm good.
Umetoka nani?
Umetoka Munyoro.
Yeah, you've come back in one piece.
Come back in one piece.
We're very proud of you.
Asante sana.
Karibu sana. Sisi tuko hapa.
Beautiful conversation we had there with Rigathi Gachagua. For a very long time, they've said they don't have an agenda. So it was an opportunity for him to speak of their agenda, especially on things that they see is affecting the country. So it was beautiful to hear him speak.
Well, it's good to see both of you there.
Yeah.
And have those conversations. I think that is important. People need to keep talking, Bwana.
It is.
Yes. And then at least, even if you're talking, if what you're saying is not making sense, as you keep doing it at some point, you will come into your own. So that's a good thing. It's 6:15, getting roundabout to that. And today is the 11th of December. Yes. And this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Oh, me, I'm fine, as you can see.
Kofreshi? Lady in black.
Come on.
Looking all nice.
Sandy.
But they're autopilot. You see that captain speaking, we started on Monday. Today, we are 40,000 above sea level. You know the plane knows home.
Just
coordinates have been entered.
Take us home.
We are cruising nicely.
Take us home. Sindio.
Kabisa.
And even if you're not in a plane, you can imagine that you are. And you can do that when it's taking you to the wonderful world of imagination. And you can actually do that with Airtel.
Yes, because Airtel gives you an opportunity to be part of the process, to be part of these amazing, beautiful destinations that you always dream about. There is no need of you thinking of last-minute rush on how you need to book these tickets. No, Airtel is telling you, we have the Airtel Fun Unlimited Data Bundle, where you spend 9 shillings, you get 1 hour. 45 shillings, you get 3 hours. And this will enable you to be part of the process. Ndu, you want to watch Aseto interviewing Gachagua, you need data bundles, right? Have that data bundle from Airtel that will enable you to be part of the process. Don't wait until the morning when you want to ask what exactly happened, what did Gachagua say? No, be part of the process and part of the conversation that will enable you to do what? To comment, to like, and even ask your own questions. That is the power that Airtel gives you. How do you get it? *544# or go to your My Airtel app and buy these data bundles. If you've not yet switched to Airtel, the smartest network,
go to the nearest Airtel shop and buy yourself an Airtel SIM card.
And that's how it happens, my friends. And even as we start this conversation this morning, I know that you're thinking, okay, we're going to get round to that time. You know how Christmas time, there are people who've not been married and then they know, oh my God. Tunaenda home, alafu aunties will start asking,
utaambia nini watu?
Utapata mtoto mdogo wapi?
Lini?
Saa ngapi? Lini? That's the
Unatuchelewesha.
question. You're dreading that conversation. There are also people who are dreading the conversation about, okay, so now you know, I've built a house, I have 3.5 kids, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and you're thinking, oh God. They have told me I've not gotten married. Others have told me I've not bought a house. I've not married a wife. I've not bought a cow. Those things, don't worry. It is never too late for you to plan. What's gone is gone, but you can look forward to tomorrow. Welcome to this conversation whereby you have an opportunity. Yes, even though you're crushing your goals and you're making money, you're thinking about the future. Everyone else has a plan, but me, I really need to get my act together. That feeling is of needing to get your future locked down, and it's real. But listen, getting a plan doesn't have to be an intimidating or elitist idea. That's why I'm talking about ICEA Lion. They're cutting through the noise and making financial planning relatable, whether you're just starting out or looking to secure a comfortable retirement. They have plans to help you build wealth, protect your assets, and prosper with retirement security. So stop worrying about the future and start planning for it today. Get the easy personal loan that works, personal plan that works for you. The question is, what's your plan? You can find out more details at iceaLion.co.ke. Sawa.
Remember, failing to plan is planning to fail.
Absolutely. So we're not worrying about it. We're not lamenting about it and saying shoulda, coulda, woulda. No. We're saying do it.
Do it.
Now with ICEA Lion. They're going to help you get on your way. All you need to do is ask, and the answers will be given. Sawa. All right. Let's get into the conversations that we will be having this morning. We're going to kick it off with Irongo Houghton, who is the Executive Director of Amnesty International, Kenya. We're talking about eroding freedoms. Remember, there was this report that came out yesterday, and it was talking about the shrinking civic space in Kenya, and also about the deteriorating state of human rights in Kenya. Ouch. So what are we looking at when we say that? And how important, we talk about human rights.
Yes.
How important it is. Perhaps it's time for us to do a roundabout and say, okay, guys, first of all, these human rights that we talk about, what are they? Where do mine end? Where do yours begin? Where do those of the state start after I've expressed mine as a citizen? So Irongo joins us, and we're going to be talking about the alarming surge in rights abuses. What exactly are we talking about? Sawa. That's the conversation for 7 o'clock. And then we're going to get into it with Njeri, who is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. The politics of presence. CS is on the campaign trail for 2027. If this is what we saw in 2025 in a by-election, what are we likely to see in 2027? Is everybody going to get on top of their Prado and start telling us who to vote for? And if they do, what can we do? If they think that it's okay, should the law kick in at some point? So that's the conversation that we will have with Wakili at 8 o'clock. And then today, Kajase exam results will be released. NEC and the ministry will come out and tell us the first ever cohort of learners to sit this exam. They told us that just before Christmas we would get the results, and indeed they're coming out today, and we're going to be able to set pathways, the pathways have already been set. These grade 9 learners will go to grade 10 next year, and it's being called the first ever. Lewis Nyaundi is an education reporter with the Standard Group. He'll join us with these exams roll out, what to expect. We'll have a conversation about education from a journalist's point of view who's been covering these things for a while, and we'll look into what the insights are, what to expect now today, and what to expect going into the future. Sawa. That's what it looks like. Human rights at 7. Politics at 8, education at 9. Karibuni sana to the Situation Room. Let's have that conversation. Our live streams are up on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. And our audience on KTN, good morning. Thank you for being here this Thursday. Dennis Aseto and Okoh with you, guiding this conversation. And thank you for being part of it, to be able to look into these things that matter. Sawa, we'll do it. We don't know where you've taken us to this morning, but we are ready to go.
So we are in parts of Congo, right? Beautiful country. You know, you look at the country and the wealth it has. Recently, there was that peace agreement between the two presidents, that is President Tshisekedi of Congo and Rwandan President Paul Kagame. Peace, you know, for the country. And perhaps we hoped that the country uses its resources to grow. But the Congolese people today are telling us, when you marry a monkey for his wealth, the money goes, but the monkey remains.
When you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes, but the monkey remains. Choose your poison, man. Is it fleeting? Yeah, I guess so. They're things that are fleeting, but they're things that will remain forever.
Yeah.
So when you make your choice, be very careful about what you want to stay with forever.
Yes.
And if you're okay staying with that particular thing, then okay. But if you're not, my friend, choose wisely. And I think about this yesterday because at some point yesterday I was really hungry and I was craving a particular kind of Nigerian food. And I didn't want to go through the process of making it myself. But I know that there's Auntie Jumoke here in Nairobi who can make it for me if I want it. And I wanted to order so much of it. But then I thought to myself, all this food that you want to order, is it because you're going to eat it? Or is it because in this moment you are hungry? So I waited about a few hours. And then I thought, actually, you know what? I've drank water. I've minded my business. I'm not that hungry.
You're actually doing a good job.
Where? I was dying. But in that moment, I would have made a bad decision. I would have had all this moi moi in my house. What would I have done with it?
Yep.
Make decisions. Think about the later.
The later.
Yeah.
You know, yesterday, when you were having that discussion, it was based off politics, right? And you find every other time the political class will come with promises and they will tell you what they will do and everything else. It therefore behooves upon Kenyans to make that decision with the end in sight, right? Because you will remain with the monkey.
Exactly.
Right? Question is, when the money goes, will you be happy with your monkey? During campaign period, you'll be given 200 bob, 300 bob to go vote. You will sell your birthright pretty much. But after the money goes, will you be happy with the monkey?
Exactly.
Think about it.
Exactly. Will you be happy with the monkey? Okay, let's greet people this morning, getting into it. And as you do on our live streams today, even for those of you who are not commenting, we are saying a very good morning to you and saying Karibu Sana. We know that there are folks who are on the way to work. There are folks who are already traveling outside, rather within the country, maybe some out of the country, but still listening to the show. Folks on the other side of the pond who are, you know, getting into bedtime, but tuning in as well. Karibuni Sana, and thank you for being here with us this morning. We'll just say a quick hello to you as we get into things. Very, very good morning. And yes, we see those comments already coming through. Good morning from Mombasa, says Peter Mbogo, rather Robert Mbogo. Dennis wants me to ask Aseto, where is bottom up in regards to being Singaporean and what? And US health deal. Where is the bottom up?
Bottom up? Yeah, bottom up remained that
the
manifest.
bottom. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's just bottom up. Implementation, then we can argue on that. Whether we see it, whether we feel it.
Right.
That's a different question.
Okay. There's your answer. He's asked how we are. We're doing okay.
Osalama.
Kiarie Peter says, good morning, tuning from Mombasa. When a storm attacks and big trees get uprooted, but simple grass always survives. Being simple and ageless makes us more powerful and stable. Interesting. Georgia Demo says, it's raining in Rongo. Finally.
Baba Seto's been complaining.
Cindy,
hey. Yeah, finally.
Very heavy rain.
My God has done it finally.
Finally, my God has done it finally. Finally. We are singing for rain, no? That's why we are singing. Yes, so happy to see that those rains are coming. I mean, we read a story yesterday on the news about 9 counties looking at dire situations come January because of the semi-failed rains between October and December. So it's good that it can rain in some parts, and we hope for more rain.
For more rain,
We definitely do. Hey, Desmond Otis, sasa wewe mgala muue lakini haki yake mpe.
Yes.
Okay.
That speaks of, how do I say it? Even those who are on the wrong, right? If there is something good that they've done, give them their flowers.
Right.
Yeah. But even if it means killing them, but give them their flowers.
Give them their flowers. That's it. Good morning to you, Desmond. Thank you so much for being here. Ramtula Omar says, good morning, Preston, UK. Great interview with Riggy G yesterday, Mr. Aseto.
Asante sana.
Tibbs Muge says, good morning. Thank you for all the hard work. Asante sana. Thank you so much for being here with us. Leo says, good morning. Good morning to you. By the time KK is done with the motherland, our wildlife parks will be looking like pipeline, money over nature. Killing the golden goose thinking it will lay more eggs. Somebody said yesterday. Okay, I'm not going to say it because they may kick me out of Kenya. You say it.
Just say it.
The rhino had one job. Even though okay. The rhino.
Just one.
One job, rhino. The rhino had one job. Shh.
You know, even, man, where were these lions?
Wow.
Where were the crocodiles when this construction are taking place? Like protective space.
Moving on swiftly.
But you see, this guy talks about pipeline. There is a joke that goes around that in pipeline, if you're in the next building and you're my friend, we just speak across the window. Yeah, do coffees to the job.
Okay.
Now you can imagine that being at the park. What does that mean?
Exactly. Okay. Taking all your greetings this morning. Antonina Kahika, good morning. Now we know we can be here by 6:06 if yesterday is anything to go by. Yeah, anything is possible. Anything. But, every day is a different day. So, we take it and we roll with the punches. But good morning to you. George Obuya says, good morning, everybody listening from Kendu Bay. Good morning to you. Kangera says, good morning, Spice. Happy Thursday from the streets of Kanairo. Is there a flu bug going around? Yeah, there's something actually in the pipes, unfortunately. Raimtuma Omar says, 2.5 trillion stolen every year is crazy, according to Riggy G. Well, I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
Is that not that's the number that we're looking at. It's crazy. Next time, he says you should go to Njeri.
We're planning on that.
Sindo?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. He's planning on that.
We had a piece of Omnyoro in Nairobi yesterday.
They'll come for you if you're not careful. Dennis, you know what? They like what your Baba did. It's not just me. You see, you guys, it's everybody.
That guy is Burundian. He's a Burundian. He's called Ernest. And I just found out he went through the program that you're talking about the other day.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's one of the guys, the lucky few.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it's good. And you stick with the one guy. You're those ones for I'll go where my hairdresser goes.
If it travels, shida.
Because you don't know. Come, I'll cut for you.
I shall.
Ooh,
I think it's traveling for Christmas. I always go every 2 weeks, so next week.
So you need to go next week because
I'm coming to you because it's gone.
Oh, Bas, I understand.
Hey.
Okay, so don't worry. When you guys see the work that I will do, all of you will be coming to me. In fact, things should fail here. I become a Baba. It's called Babares. Baba.
That one.
Wait. Do things here. Emily Osana says, good morning. I watched the Masai Mara documentary. Now you know where to go for permission to do anything anywhere. Sindio. Kisa Daniel says, good morning. Tuned in from 256. Good morning to you. Gio Kota says, good morning, my people. Princess Ndu Dennis. Ivi na vile leo ametu. You should see what she's doing.
It's okay.
Good morning. I can even see. Huh? Am I blind? No, I can't. Joy is there.
Hello.
How are you? Soba. Okay, everybody's in the building. Have you seen young Masai behind the technology there? He graduated a couple of weeks ago, by the way. Congratulations once again. Let's just embarrass you properly. Joyline, yes, we have seen you coming with food. Just relax, everything is okay. Salamiang, the people behind the wheels of steel there, getting it done. But don't worry. I'm watching you. Try me. Okay. Bwangi Juma says, how are you all? We are good. Good job last night, says Jimmy Munuthi Dennis. Well done to you. Good morning, guys, says Erica Ward. Good morning. My prince, good morning. Is Kenya among the countries Trump called hell holes, or those other holes? I don't know, but there's a State Department of, the Department of Homeland Security is kicking some people out for serious crimes, and unfortunately, Kenya's on the list, as are a couple of other African countries, and Nigeria's on the list as well. So there's a lot of things going on. Rose Gray says, good morning, Ndo and Aseto, siku njema, asante sana. Good morning from Mombasa. Aseto, you looked very sharp in that suit. Alianza asubuhi, I'm telling you, this guy. Alikuwa na mpango. So you just tell us mapema.
I'll be wearing suits more often.
Kwanza ile jana.
I purpose.
Without the tie. In the morning.
In the morning.
Alafu in the evening. Can you imagine?
I will do it.
Yeah. Abraham Kimeli says, good morning. Happy Thursday, asante sana. If we could put more energy in country building like politics, we would be very far as a country. Kabisa. You're absolutely right.
I think if we get our politics right, then everything else will follow. If we get our politics wrong, we are not moving anywhere.
That is true.
Yeah.
Douglas Kibogong says, good morning. Ask your one. Human rights are centered to the city. Village people don't know. I think they do, to an extent. But we'll have that conversation at 7 today. Happy Thursday, blessed weekend ahead, says Asnwab Omondi. Good morning to you. Mbaga Joshua, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Feliz Navidad. Robert Nyangi tuned in from Birikani in Voi. Good job, Aseto, says Njeri. Jana's interview was lit. Hard questions. Kabisa. Newton says good morning from Mount Elgon, and we're saying a very good morning listening in from Canada. Good morning, the usual suspects. Say hi to Irongo for me, we shall say hi. He awarded my daughter 4 certificates of exceptional performance at Kyoto School. He will remember. Okay, so we will tell him. Nelson Mungai says, good morning, Spice team. Good morning, guys. Good to see you. Good to see you. Period. Waiting for the discussion. It's like when you don't use commas and periods, it confuses us.
Morning, guys. Good to see you. Waiting for discussion.
So it's like we are the ones waiting for the discussion. And you're happy to see us waiting. You get it? Pare says, good morning. We are the people, Kabisa. And Beja, we see you. Good morning. Tuning from Paddington in London. Linda Ogola, good morning. Bahas, Linda, Linda, me, I like you. Right to the question. How is Katerina?
She's good.
Linda,
Katerina is doing well. The mother is equally fine.
Why has your voice dropped in volume?
Katerina is good. The mom is good, but she has the granddad. The stories this man has. Oh my God! Because he's from the Amazonia. He is from the Amazonia side, so he's like the indigenous people of the Amazon. When you sit with him and just have this conversation, doesn't speak English, but you just follow through.
People are right.
My in-laws are fine. Maybe say it.
What? Somebody in the MCR is shouting. Linda, have you heard all those things this guy has said? He said his in-laws are fine. Amefika kwa in-laws. We. All right, sawa hapo ndo tuko. Stahere tunayo kesho au nazi pia hatuna. Bwangi ni nini? Emmanuel Templar says, good interview yesterday. Gachagua was trying to show he has a plan for the country, but he failed miserably. Instead, he showed his stupidity. Okay. Very far English calling. Okay, I hear you, but okay. Linda said that your face is telling a story. Hapo ndio tuko leo asubuhi.
Linda, so be nice. Tufanye show.
Oh, Linda, I just want to take this moment. Linda, the question that you have asked has now been answered for all of us that we've had questions. You see, Linda, I told you you're a very sharp chick. So thank you very much for serving in this capacity this morning.
Okay.
You need to see Joyline after the show, by the way.
I will.
Please, because she's not very happy at this point.
Okay.
Let's take a look at the headlines today. The story is making headlines in Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. Radical shift begins. That's what's on the front page. Amid rising concerns over unpreparedness at running senior school that begins next year, today, grade 9 candidates receive results of their performance in the last 2 years of junior secondary school. Despite warnings that have followed the calamitous implementation of JSS around the country, education mandarins begin preparing to send more than 1 million of the country's youngsters into the first step of their career paths in grade 10. To pundits, this seems like a fishing expedition. They're saying, not yet, Uhuru. The issues that are being raised, 1.1 million learners receive first ever KJSEA scores today. Kenya enters a new era of testing as the Pioneer CBC class receives personalized results with no ranking. So there's nothing like number one, It's still on that model of below expectation, meeting expectation, approaching, exceeding. So it's nothing like out of 500 anymore. That doesn't happen. And it's not one over the other. So you will not hear that Ndu scored 490 out of 500. You won't hear that anymore. And you won't hear that she was number one in the country. New scoring model replaces a 500 mark race. Subjects graded under 4 bands from exceeding expectations, meeting expectations, approaching expectations, and below expectations. Can you say only counts for 60% of your final score? So an exam is part of, so you see these things that we've been doing all this time. Oh, bring colors and chicken and eggs. Oh, rub and it all counts to this score. The exam is only 60% of it. National Assessment Report to shape policy. NEC will issue a national analysis giving policymakers a first look at how junior secondary schools, or rather learners, fared in the test. NEC to recommend each learner's pathway. The council will send learners to STEM, social sciences, or arts and sports based on performance strengths and declared interests. So the sending will be a combination of what you scored and also your interests, and that's how they will know where they will place you. The hope is that if I've selected a pathway, that you should try to allow me to be in the pathway that I have selected. Because it doesn't make sense if I have chosen art and because you think that whatever, that you should now put me in science. Amma? I don't know. Yeah. Looking into some other stories, noise complaints in Top Estate now land in court. This thing of making noise in the night when you think you are just in a disco the whole night, stop it.
About time. About time.
You're one of those sufferers.
About time. I'm a light sleeper.
Okay.
Kelele, I can't sleep where there's noise. And some people just think you'll wake up and then just bring a club or party or the whole night simply because you bought a new subwoofer. Takuzimia steamer. Kopol.
Okay.
And I thank Nema for doing that thing. That one I must say.
And they've taken it to court. So, that's what we're looking at today. All right. So, looking at some other headlines that are making it into the Bold newspaper today. High cost of deployment, deaths, delays, and legal wars. Mar Haiti mission. We saw that CS Morcomen welcomed the Haiti mission, 200 and something odd soldiers back home yesterday. They've been praised for bravery abroad, and they will be part of the Jamhuri Day celebrations tomorrow, where they will actually take part in the National Guard parade or something. I can't remember what it was called, but they will be celebrated. Douglas Kanja said these guys have been, they've done above and beyond the call of duty, and so they will be celebrated tomorrow, which I agree. You've been sent into a war zone, my friend. You didn't know what you were going to find, but you did it gallantly, and you're back in one piece for the most of it. For the most part. KJSEA results mark a new era as 1.1 million learners start senior pathways. 97 extrajudicial killings reported in 2025. 2025 is not over, and they're just under 100. Of course, we're going to look into that with Irongo Houghton at 7. Gashagwa says IEBC is weak and that Ruto is afraid of him. Even though Kwambia Jana. Yeah. Ruto's afraid of me. Yeah. This headline... Why we chose Vodacom over you? I'm telling you, journalists, our flair is just something else. Isn't it? Yeah. So but that's the truth. So we asked a question yesterday that why didn't you allow Kenyans bid for this? But they said, this money is here, it's now, and we're ready to go. We needed something now.
Yeah, Gashagwa as well asked that question. Why? Because remember, the shares that the government of Kenya has belongs to the people. So there's also the feeling that even as the government makes the decision to, ask first, what to? Unataka tuze hizi shares, then they wambiwe before you even start with the process. And then again, remember, in financial matters, there is another process that then has to be followed. So the balancing act is there. Interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Gen Z, our leaders have failed freedom fighters. This is coming out, that particular voice. Tata and the lobby sue the state over US deal as petitioner goes to Armenia. They're saying, you know what, this American deal, wacha tuende kotini kwanza, nyinyi munafanya? No. It's just, hold on, let's get the court to ask you to tell us exactly what's going on first. And then, in the meantime, just hold the deal. You guys could have gone and agreed with yourself. You could have shaked, hands. My English is not working today. You'd have done one of those things, but you would have done all of those things. But Appa, here first. Hold on. Hold. Tulia Kwanzaa. Let's know exactly what's going on. So, Mike Mbuvi Sonko has made a political comeback, is what we're being told.
Yes,
He's actually formed a new political party, and I think launching such.
Yeah, it is here.
It is here. The party is here with us. Why his political comeback generates curiosity ahead of 2027 is what we are looking at today. So we'll look into that because it's an interesting one to have one who served as MP. He also then served as governor of Nairobi, and then with the plagues here and there, that's why it looked like it was difficult to then handle. So we'll look into that story as well. All right. So also, what are we looking at that's making its way into the Bold newspaper this morning? Headlines continue. Ruto now reverses plan to share park revenue with county and said, no. The president said his promise for 50-50 sharing with KWS is not sustainable, first of all. And he says local leaders are accusing the national government of double standards. So they're saying, no. We are going to charge people. We're saying KWS will collect, not county.
Where? Mambo geuka.
Very fast.
Remember our proverb. When the money ends, will you be happy, the monkey?
State records 1,011 homicides as family and community conflicts surge. And it's not good, unfortunately, that these conflicts are happening within families. It's quite unfortunate. Looking into the business pages of The Standard, Kenya to wait until the new year for IMF bailout decision as talks stall. IMF is bailing Kenya out.
The macro level of the economy was doing well, and that the IMFs were easy and good.
They said they fixed the economy. Yeah. So that means you shouldn't be using words like bailout.
Bailout, yeah.
Because if you're having to when do you bail somebody out? When they're in trouble.
Or they're in trouble, yeah.
Yeah, but we've said the economy is fixed. It may sound like a really simplistic way to describe it, but that is the case. Let's look into the world just a little bit. Gunfire as rebels target key DRC town despite Trump's peace deal. So there's a peace deal on paper, but the reality on the ground is that the guns are still ablazing.
Yeah.
Venezuela's Machado safe, but will miss a Nobel Prize ceremony. We still see that there is quite a thing. Let me ask you, I'm looking at these ads, and that as the Kejisea results are coming out, we're looking at graduation ceremonies. There's a message from the cabinet secretary. Things like that continue. Hapo tu ndio tunaendelea. Do you want to start with a story, sir?
Yeah, I think let's go to this story on education on Kejisea, which is on page 4 of the Standard, because it is a big story. And here we go.
Okay.
Over 1.1 million candidates who sat the first Kenya Junior School Education Assessment Kejisea will today know their examination score, which marks a major shift away from the competition-driven 844 model. Now, for the grade 9 candidates, today also marks the beginning of their walk towards their future careers, which begins soon after the ministry places them in respective pathway schools. Now, the country will for the first time receive results that do not include merit list and aggregate score or school mean scores as the competency-based curriculum dream to shape learners' strength and aspirations now takes shape. Unlike the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, KCPE, whose results drew national attention to top schools and candidates, today's event will focus strictly on individual performance. Learners will access their own results on the Kenya National Examination Council portal, giving a brief of their performance in the 9 subjects they wrote between October 27th and November 3rd. And for the first time, NEC will also provide a recommendation on where they are best suited to be placed based on the strengths their results will portray. The Standard has established that NEC will generate cluster weights for each learner based on performance across the 9 subjects, which will propose a suitable pathway aligned with the senior school structure of arts and sports, science, social sciences, or science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, the ministry will use the cluster weight, the NEC recommendations, and the learners' earlier declared interest to place candidates into pathways as the CBC rollout progresses. So the thing of waiting, this is the best performer in Nairobi or across the country, 0. It is a question of the overall performance, competencies of this student will finally be given to them as an individual. A parent is able to look at how their child performed, and recommendations will be given based off all the criteria that are there, and finally a recommendation will be given as to where this child is best suited to go.
Yeah. It's interesting because even with the new model for scoring in the CBE is that we're not looking at numbers anymore, but what you're looking at is whether they're below, approaching, meeting, whether they're, or exceeding. And I've seen a question here which is really important, that what happens if a child is below expectation? That the system, the way it is designed to not refuse any child to move forward. But that because of the holistic nature of the education system, in word, is that even as a learner moves, that then more attention would be given to ensure that they are at the very least meeting expectations or approaching them. So there's no refusal for a child to move or transition to the next class. And we'll find that such words are used quite a lot in this education system, that they transition anyway, and that there is a holistic approach to how then they are taught.
You know, it will be interesting to see in the future, one would look at education system that will be re-engineered, you know, in the sense that I might see a situation where, you know, if your child is into STEM, you know where to take them. You know, if it's in arts, you know, this is a specific school that would take care of my child. I see the model headed towards that direction, you know. It's like in the States where, you know, if you want to talk technology, MIT institutions are the ones that are fashioned to handle such, you know. If you want to talk about sports and culture, we have institutions that are big on that. So we look at an education system that will progressively keep changing and will accommodate each and every single individual easily, yes.
For sure. It'll be interesting to see how this, and I know we'll hear from the ministry and from NEC today in terms of what the preparations are and if they are all in place. The literature for grade 10 is unfortunately still not out, and we did see a problem where we have also seen literature make its way into market that is not KICD approved. It's other people's stuff and it's already being bought. So now what happens to those that people who are actually selling this literature that shouldn't be? Are we going to see that come out before the end of the year? We don't know, because we've got 15 days or so to see that happen, and we're going into a period where a lot of things are closed in between. So whether there will be full readiness for pathways into January 2026, we'll wait and see. Because remember, schools are opening in the first week. Grade 10s will report to the different schools the week after everybody else. But what happens here? Those are the questions that we're asking.
So in short, they're reporting in exactly 3 weeks?
Yes.
On the fourth week?
Yeah.
And the text is not yet out. That means parents have not started buying these books, you know. So how are they going to school? Using what literature? Using what text?
These are the same children who went to school in grade 7 and their books came out in term 2.
Term 2, yeah.
So, I mean, and it's sad that we've gotten to the place where you say anything goes and we'll wait and see, you know. And it's, of course, it would be nice if under the leadership of Ogamba that all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed. Because we keep playing Russian roulette with children education.
You know, the sad part is when we started implementing CBE, you know, they started as grade 3, right?
Yes.
So you knew they were going to grade 4. So why delay? You knew they were going to grade 6. One would hope that there is something being done to ensure that all these classes are covered, because next year we'll start talking about they're going to grade 11. There's no text.
Yeah.
You know, and that will be 1 year later.
Yep, it will. So let's see. And then what? Okay.
I know. It riles you up. I know
it does.
Yeah, and it should. It rightfully should. Question is, why are the office bearers, those with the highest responsibility, not riled up as we are? Where is TAC? Because TAC as well should ask, our teachers that we've employed should be teaching using a specific text. What are you doing about it? You know, but we also have NEC who are in charge of examinations. We need the text for us to even start preparing for examinations. The government itself, capitation we're sending capitation without text, then what does...
If you're sending the capitation in the first
there's
place.
that too.
Yeah. Many things. The senator for the Republic of Kenya, representing the county of Busia, he, together with the Consumers Watchdog, have gone to court to stop the rolling out of the recent Kenya-US multi-billion shilling health deal. Senator Okoh Omtata and the Consumers Federation of Kenya yesterday filed separate petitions questioning the 207 billion shilling agreement signed last week. And in another filing before the High Court, a man claiming to be a community health promoter wants the Adani deal whistleblower Nelson Amenya barred from commenting or spreading information about the MOU. Really? Hey. That's rich, but okay. In his case, Omtata argues that the deal had circumvented Parliament's oversight and created extra budget expenditure without the approval of the second arm of government. I don't know that there's second or third arm of government. We know that there are three arms and they're all on the same level. He says the framework indicated there would be no legal consequences if the US violated the law. According to him, the non-binding nature meant that it prioritized America's geopolitical interest over equitable universal health care. The rushed signing bypassed Parliament. It usurps legislative authority and undermines the sovereignty of the people who delegated sovereign power to Parliament, said Omtata, adding that the terms, conditions, obligations, procurement modalities, liabilities and dispute resolution mechanisms of the deal have not been disclosed to the public. He also claims that the framework creates direct and indirect public finance obligations, including potential co-financing, tax waivers, and recurrent expenditure, which have allegedly not been subjected to parliamentary appropriation. And Kofek, on the other hand, argues that the deal violates the Constitution and health law and was done in secret. You cannot do it in secret and then come and say, oh, mama, look, I'm pregnant. You can't do that. This is what they're saying, essentially. So this other guy who's come and said that Nelson Kamenya should not be talking, he accuses him of causing public fear and confusion. He accuses him of causing resistance to ongoing community-level health activities, causing mistrust towards health education exercises, causing hostility or suspicion directed at the community health promoters, causing interference with their daily service delivery. He seeks an order, a finding that Amenya's posts on the Kenya-US aid deal contain harmful misinformation, a declaration that Amenya has violated Articles 43, 35, 28 and 32 of the Constitution, a mandatory order forcing Amenya to delete all posts on the multi-billion shilling deal, gag Amenya from publicizing, reposting or disseminating information relating to public health, direct government agencies to take measures to protect health systems from disruption caused by the information, compel Amenya to pay damages which should be assessed by the court and for the cost of the case. Like I said, that's rich, but okay. Freedom of expression, and all that good stuff. I figure, okay, so now you've just... Did who hurt you? Well, I don't know, but that's what it looks like. So it'll be interesting to see what the courts have to say about this. But they said, no, you can't do things in secret. Come and tell us first so that we can all be involved in the process. Even though Tunataka. Simple.
Yeah, but, I mean, where was Parliament's authority? Even if it's... One would argue that it's a Parliament that has let go its independence. It has surrendered its independence to the executive. But then again, that process ought to have taken place before signing that deal. At least let that be, not even at least, let that be discussed on the floor of the House and hear the voices of many. Ask Kenyans about it. That's the thing, because even the deal that you're talking about with the share thing with Safaricom, people are asking the same question. Involve us before making the decision, before taking the research that you wanted to sell the shares. Involve us from the word go, not after the fact.
This is true. That's the case. And that's what we're looking at. So let's see. Do you want to tell us why Sonko is... I don't know.
Akona chama mpya.
On page 16, yeah.
Page 16. So Sonko has formed a party, and he says, former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko is plotting a comeback in the political scene following the registration of his party. Sonko has been in the political cold after being impeached in December 2020. It will be interesting to watch whether Sonko, now with the leader of the National Economic Development Party, will be able to navigate the political terrain as the country gears up to the 2027 general election. We are up to set up a movement that will help us from the next government, with our foundation being economic transformation, development and upgrading of the livelihoods of all Kenyans. This is the party to watch as we head to the next general election, said Sonko on Tuesday after receiving his certificate of registration. Now, the party leadership includes the deputy party leaders Naomi Masai and Anthony Manyara, Bernard Mulwa, who is the Secretary General, John Nyam, who is the National Chairperson, and Daniel Ntomu as the Executive Director, Deputy Chairpersons Rashid Miyonga and Nancy Mushani. Political commentator Barak Moluka says Sonko is likely to seek a better deal in political realignments as he makes his way to relevance now. He says Sonko is fighting for his space and he will definitely not mind working with either President William Ruto or Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, but will definitely go for someone offering him a better deal. That is why he is keen on having a political vehicle that he controls, which will work well for him, argues Muluka. Now, he notes that Sonko has proven to be a great mobilizer and one of the few politicians who can get votes from any part of the country. Senator Daniel Manzo, who was Sonko's lawyer as he was seeking to be cleared to vie for the Mombasa governorship in the last general election, terms him a national leader who was irregularly pushed out. Now, 2010 is the year and a time where Mike Sonko was first elected to parliament in Makadara by elections at the age of 35. So yes, Sonko is back. He has a party.
Okay.
Many look at it in terms of, he says the party is a national party. He will recruit people to it, but political commentators as well have what it is they're saying, that all he wants is to cut deals. He will use his party as a vehicle upon which he will get that which he has, because then again, remember, when it comes to mobilizing, he's good
a
at
good
it.
mobilizer, my friend. Don't play. That's the truth.
Transition Chama.
At this rate, we can just form a party here, and then we can just and we just be talking here, and then people will start following because it seems that that's how easy it is.
Yeah.
And we say, okay, you know what? As you listen to us, just give 10 shillings, not even those things. 10 bob. Everybody 10 bob every day. 10 bob. 10. We mobilize.
Chama Wananchi.
Don't put idea in my head.
Chama Wananchi. CCW.
Chama Wananchi.
Chama.
It has a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
If you want to scare village nini, you never know. By the end of this, by 10 o'clock, things could have started moving. Certificate pack. Who's the new registrar of political parties, by the way? After Anderito did left, who is it, by the way? I know it's. I'll remember. I'll tell you in a bit. But perhaps you can pay them a visit, because if this is the way it is, you can just decide, okay, I'm coming back, and we move.
You just move, because there is. If you get numbers in 2027. The political parties fund will be something that you also contest, because we have members of parliament, senators, so you're entitled to that fund.
Yep.
And then if you can also cut deals, handshakes here, broad-based here and there, become part of the bigger cake.
It's all a plan, man.
Chama Wananchi.
Chama Wananchi.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's interesting because those are the things that we are looking at today. A new political party formed, the chances for you to form one and then be able to move the political needle in one way or another. All right, get yourself a copy of the Standard newspaper, or then get clicked onto the e-paper online so that you don't miss a beat when it comes to a lot of the stories that are making their way into our headlines today. Our conversation started at 7 o'clock with Irongo Houghton. He'll be in the hot seat at 7, and we'll go into matters, politics, and then education after that. This is the Situation Room. It's Thursday, and our conversations continue just before Jamhuri Day. Good morning, 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. All 107,000 community health promoters across Kenya will be enrolled under the Social Health Authority insurance and have their stipends paid promptly in a bid to ensure that frontline health workers are supported as they deliver essential services to communities nationwide. The decision made during the 12th National and County Governments Coordinating Summit also directs the development of a framework to transition community health extension workers to permanent and pensionable terms. The summit communique outlined that the insurance premiums will be co-financed on a 50-50 basis by the national and county governments, amounting to 330 shillings per promoter from each level. Earlier in September, President William Ruto had called for the immediate absorption of over 7,500 universal health coverage staff into permanent and pensionable employment, overriding a prior agreement that would have kept the workers on SRC salary scales until June 2026. Now, the Kilifi County, Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers have revealed that a large percentage of them are suffering from mental health problems. Union's Executive Secretary Caleb Mogere said many teachers have been experiencing challenges in their families that have led to them resorting to drug use. Mogere says that the move has necessitated sending teachers to rehabilitation centers to win them off drugs. And moving on is that 15 Kenyans who've been residing in the United States are among individuals branded the worst of the worst following their arrest for deportation by the Trump administration. The 14 men and one woman find themselves on an initial list of 10,000 whose names, images, and criminal histories have been published by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on a webpage called Worst of the Worst, which was launched on Monday. The crimes for which they are listed include driving under the influence, fraud, and robbery. Some of them include Nasirian Montet, Alfred Obiero, Patrick Mwangi, Daniel Kadhi, Isaac Githinji Collins, Kianche, Bethwell Gathu, Moses Okoth, and Clement Mulovi, among others. Malindi constituency administrators in Kilifi County have warned all tourists visiting the area during the Christmas and New Year celebrations to heed the advice of Indian Ocean experts before venturing into the sea to avoid disasters. Malindi constituency Deputy Commissioner Irene Munyoki has urged visitors to be more careful when visiting the beaches, saying that the sea is currently dirty and can cause disasters if people are not careful.
Leo ningependa kukaribisha wageni wetu wale wamekuja huku wakati huu wa likizo Malindi na kuwatahadharisha ya kwamba bahari limechafuka kiasi, na kwa hivyo wakienda kule kwa bahari wahakikisha kwamba wako na watu wa kuwaongoza na wasiingie kwa bahari bila muongozo, sababu wakati mwingine tumepata majanga ya watu kubebwa na maji na hatutaki mje huku kwetu kama wageni wetu na matatizo ama majanga ya wapate.
And her statement was supported by the Deputy Chief of Shelle, Nicodemus Mwayele, who also warned visitors against putting their lives at risk.
Wazazi wakati huu wawe very careful, na tunajua tutapata wageni wengi kutoka bara, so tunawaambia akikuja waweze kuwa na mipangilio, sio kuja tuna kujiingilia kwa maji na mara tunapata maafa.
And Nyamira County Woman Representative Jerusha Momanyi has called on police officers in the area to improve security for residents. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the Ayaka police station in Nyamonuri, Jerusha lamented the insecurity situation, saying police officers should be held accountable for their responsibilities.
Kwa sababu watu wetu wamekufa hapa. Every year tunakuwa na reports ya watu ambao wanauawa na pia vitu yetu inapotea. Kwa hivyo watu walikuwa wanajua hapa hakuna ulinzi. Lakini kuanzia leo wajue ya kwamba tumetangaza vita. Hawanyudi sisi. Tunataka kukuomba. Hatutaki kusikia kisa yoyote kutoka mahali hapa. Wale ambao wamekufa wametosha.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from a Kikuyu radio background, I migrated to Spice because of the content.
I was born in a slum, but somehow I got a break in life. So sometimes when you see the sweating coming out because of the passion and whatever it is, behind the noise, there are people. And we share the same umbilical cord.
It shouldn't be like that. I am so disappointed. We used to tell Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga that he's doing police of conmanship. And even President Uhuru Kenyatta, serikali hii ndio iko na conmanship ya hali ya juu. You cannot promise people that you reduce tax, then you double.
In politics, there is the issue of trust. For you to turn around and then stab the same people who gave you that trust, there is no other level of dishonesty. Imabo, utaona dunia tu.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
A very good morning to you. It's 9 minutes after 7 o'clock and into the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this morning. And I have my 19 bob in my pocket. I even have 45 in the other pocket.
Yes. Now, that will enable you buy Airtel bundles from Airtel. You know, 1 hour, right? And you have 3 hours at 45 shillings. All this is to enable you get connected, be able to be part of the process, conversations, and moments that you don't want to miss, you know.
Right.
You can imagine a situation, you are here at work and you're called, you're told, hey, your baby first steps are here. Please get connected to experience that. And because you have a work data bundle in a katika, because it is timed, you have, it's like an alarm. You have 30 seconds and you can snooze every 5 minutes.
You know, you're going to make people think that I have a baby who's about to walk. But okay, it's okay.
We're just painting a picture.
All right, so.
So, but because you want to be part of that process, Airtel now tells you have unlimited data bundles that is affordable to you. How do you get that? *544#, or you go to your My Airtel app, download that on App Store or Google Play, or as well, you just buy yourself airtime and Airtel SIM card that will enable you to do that. Also share with us your former moment, that experience in your life that you missed because you are not connected. Airtel will give you 3,000 shillings worth of airtime courtesy of Airtel so that you can be part of the conversation. And while we are talking to that, it's important to plan.
It is definitely important to plan, and ICEA Line is helping you do that. How do you navigate this constantly changing world? And when it comes to your money, you need a plan that's easy to access. The good news, ICEA Line is making your financial journey seamless and digital. So forget the old-fashioned waiting in a queue, booking for tomorrow. Doesn't happen like that, because with a WhatsApp chat bot called Leo and self-service portal, making planning absolutely super easy. They even have a retirement preparedness index tool. It helps you calculate exactly how much you need for retirement, and it gives you specific target towards planning. ICA is making insurance and investment necessities, not luxuries, but for a diverse group of people. So what you need to do is find your accessible, inclusive, and helpful plan today. Just ask, what's your plan? Check out on the digital tools at icealion.co.ke. We're getting into it, guys, and that's all about planning. And our guest is in the hot seat. And always a pleasure to have this conversation, but then also to be real about certain things. Edongo Houghton, good morning.
Morning. And let me just register a complaint. The seat is not hot. The air conditioning is very cold. So false advertising. So
this is why you're here.
Yeah, so to heat it up a bit.
Exactly.
Thank you
why
very
you're
much. It's a pleasure to be here.
You're here, and it's very good to have you. Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya, and joins us again this morning for a conversation. And how have you been?
I've been well. Actually, this year has been intense for Amnesty International, but it's a different kind of intensity. Last year was really responding to the violence around the protests. This year, of course, with June and July, things were very intense, but it's been a different kind of intensity. I think what we've seen is the funding environment for non-governmental organizations has just transformed in the last 6 months or so, 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
So for many of us, actually looking at how do we continue to keep being effective with the resources that we have, and also look for new resources has been the preoccupation this year.
Yeah. Some crazy numbers and some interesting things coming out, especially yesterday.
Yeah.
We'll look into those in just a bit, but Dennis wants to tell you about a monkey.
Yes.
A monkey.
Yeah.
And we go to Congo.
A particular monkey. A Congolese monkey.
Not Curious George.
I like,
okay, not that one.
Yes, I like where you're headed. And one must say that brush looks really nice.
Thank you very much.
I would not mind having one.
I knew I was coming on to Spice, so I had to dress up.
Yes, it looks really, really nice. It looks really, really nice. So let's go to Congo.
Yep.
And when you marry a monkey for its...
Sorry. Okay.
I may not be able to register this one. Should you ever want to marry a monkey, yes.
Yes. But for its money and its wealth, the money goes, but the monkey does stay.
Yeah, that's a great one. So what I'm present to there is, first of all, just the ridiculousness of marrying a monkey, but I hear what you're saying. I mean, I think what I'm present to is how important personal values and ethics are. Right, that the persons we marry, the people that we relate to, ultimately are their values and their ethics. And they may look shiny, they may look enticing, they may look beautiful even, but frankly speaking, once you're past the first appearance, you're now dealing with people's values.
Once you're out of honeymoon, reality check.
Yeah.
Ding! Hey, you're stuck with your monkey.
You're stuck with your monkey.
Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so let's look at some of these things that we're being told about coming in from yesterday. A particular report that came out, and I just want to look at that just a little bit. Because we're talking about a shrinking civil space. We're talking about human rights abuses then being on a high, and we're looking at the space deteriorating in what is being called a time that wasn't expected to have been seen like this. And I just want to go into the details of that just a little bit, because we're looking at a time where people have died, extrajudicial killings on the rise, 97 deaths in just 2025 that can be attributed to extrajudicial killings, disappearances of individuals, which unfortunately sometimes result in death. And there's some people who are still missing. And so what this is being described as is a shrinking human rights space, or a civic space that has been shrinking, and heightened levels or deterioration of the respect of human rights. It sounds bad when we use these words, but is that the reality, Erongo?
Yeah, I mean, I think the IMLU report that you're referring to is one of several reports that have come out in the last week or so. The other one was the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights that released their report on 2025, and they received 2,800 complaints from members of the public with regards to some form of violation. About 50% of those, funny enough, are not civil and political liberties issues, which is what IMLU is largely focused on.
Right.
They're more to do with social and economic rights. People who are concerned about not being able to leave hospital after treatment because they can't pay the bills and are being detained, medical negligence issues, insurance that doesn't work, and then there are education concerns. I mean, there are people who have increasingly seen the overcrowding in classrooms, inability to be able to get support for schools, and I'm told that there is still some controversy around, I think on the front page of the Standard today, whether we're going to be able to start the year powerfully with the funding that we require. So I think the overall environment is worrying in many ways, and it seems like Kenya is on a slow burn. The figure of 97, if I look at the comparative analysis over the years, and of course one death is one death too many, so let me not belittle any of the things that have been happening. I think Missing Voices Alliance have basically spoken about, I think over the last 2 to 3 years, with the exception of the year of 2022, the figures have been roughly about 110, 115 deaths, extrajudicial killings. So this is kind of in that range. I think for us as Amnesty, our major concern is that we still do not see, despite the lull in the killings around protests, we are still a little bit worried about what happened in June and July, because in June and July, probably about 2/3 of what IMLU has documented took place, and that's really the 65 people who were killed during protest of that period. It was the deadliest season. That 65 is equivalent to the entire number of people who were killed in protests in 2024. So we still have a long way to go, and of course we are all keeping an eye on 2027. So thinking about what happened in June, July, and then also the by-elections give us a sense that all is not well yet.
Right.
Houghton, when you speak about human rights, and when you started speaking, many have looked at approach of human rights when we talk about extrajudicial killings, but you have painted a picture of when you talk about healthcare, when you talk about education, and you just pause to think of, if we do not give children proper education, what are we doing to their future? If we do not provide citizens with proper healthcare, what are we doing to the quality of life and guarantees that have been given in the Constitution? We go to June, July, and the deaths that we've seen. We know we've had the compensation committee that was put in place and all that. But one asks the question, even while that is welcome, what happens to the fact that justice has to be delivered, and that we need to live in a country where respect for human rights and avoiding by all means necessary killing individuals is where we go to, other than dealing with the aftermath, because once a life is gone, can never be brought back. Are we looking at it in terms of preventative measures other than curative?
Yeah. No, I think one of the lessons of 2024-25 was essentially that where you see state capture of independent institutions, in the National Police Service, the Kenya National Commission, attempts to try and control the Article 59 institutions, what we call them, the level of oversight drops immediately. And once the level of oversight drops, the culture of impunity just expands, right? So you get state officers essentially thinking that they now are, investigators, prosecutors, and judges rolled up in one, and sometimes even executioners. I mean, they really, as I speak to some of the lawyers in the courts these days, and we as Amnesty, we've been following a lot of these cases in courts.
Yeah.
The psychosis of a state officer who thinks they have the power to be able to shoot somebody even during the funeral of one of Kenya's greatest sons is really very worrying. So I think that's one side of it, the culture of impunity. That's what drives this. The second one, of course, is corruption. And the third is really not prioritizing the futures of young people in terms of their education. I mean, there's been a lot of concern. I mean, I know one of the challenges we've got essentially is that we don't have enough resources as a result of the indebtedness, the odious debts that we've taken on over the last 10 years. And therefore, what you have is a financial crunch. It's affecting not just line ministries, but even county governments as well. And I think that's the biggest challenge. And for many of us who are looking at these trends economically, the question is 2026 going to be the year that we will default on our loans? Is that the crash? And we can only just hope that will not happen, because the results of that will be disastrous across all the social services that are just so important for our people.
In some documentation that I've read over the last couple of days, and we often see that the word progressive is used to describe jurisdictions where the people are aware of their rights and that follow those rights to the point whereby legal processes can take place if there is an abrogation of those rights. And because of that activity, these jurisdictions are called progressive. Can we say that if there is no realization of human rights, if there is no practice of the process of ensuring those human rights, then societies cease to be progressive?
Yeah, I mean, I think if our children came home to us at the end of the term and said, "I'm progressively doing well in school, and I've gone from an F to an E," right? We might not be very, pleased. So I think we have to argue very clearly that actually there is a standard that is set by our constitution, and that standard is not just a wish list. It's not just an expectation. It is actually a legal obligation on the part of the state, and any state that is not willing to meet that standard should essentially abdicate its role and hand over to another group of leaders to be able to do that. And I think we see that in mature democracies. We see places where in the UK there was a period, I think a couple of years ago, when we had 6 prime ministers in the space of about 2 years. And that's simply because the prime minister just felt that they didn't have enough of a mandate to be able to deliver on the policies and the manifesto of that party, and therefore just stepped down. There was no confidence within the cabinet, and then you have snap elections, right? So that's how mature democracies deal with, would you say, a loss of public mandate. And I think for progressive, the language of progressive realization is very much embedded in our constitution. But, when you have numbers like close to 100 people dying, at the hands of police officers, and let's mention it. It's not the full 110,000 police officers. This is a small number of officers who are repeat offenders. And what we have to do is we have to say that we're not progressively going anywhere. In fact, we're just backsliding.
Sure.
And the danger with that is that you then lose the expectation that anything in the Constitution will mean anything to the large number of people.
There's a bit of a worrying thing, though, because it would appear as though the majority of people, and at the risk of sounding condescending, that the majority of people do not even know that they do have human rights. Do you know what I mean? Somebody is thinking of they're not thinking that my human rights are being abrogated when you don't use public resources to do what you're supposed to do. That I will be harassed by the police. That, that there are no, for example, public amenities like trash bins or public toilets.
Yeah.
It doesn't come into the minds of people that this is actually against my human rights.
Yes.
It doesn't feature because people are struggling to eat. People are struggling to send their children to school. People are struggling to make a living. So the human right, it doesn't come into the minds of many people that this is actually something that's being done against you.
Right.
How can we get to that place where we make the connection that, hang on, you can actually have a conversation about this thing, that it shouldn't be done? And I'm talking about people across the spread of Kenya, that this conversation is not in their minds. So then how can we get to a mature democracy or mature jurisdiction where there is even an understanding or comprehension of what's happening to people right under their nose?
Yeah. No, I think consciousness matters, so does conviction. I mean, I think knowledge without the commitment to take action is, insufficient. Christians would say, faith without the work is nothing, I mean, a personal experience was a couple of weeks ago. I was away for a couple of days, and the community group in Kilimani, where I live, started talking about a sewer line that was being expanded. And it was happening behind people's homes, and the company that was contracted to build the sewer line had been going around to people's homes and saying that we want to connect you, or rather, let me put it this way, we want to reconnect you to the new sewer line, which is expanded. It was almost like an advert, it's going to be like much bigger and more effective. But we need you to pay 40,000 shillings for a manhole and 5,000 shillings for a connecting pipe, which is literally just less than a foot. And everybody was a bit shocked. And they said, when does Nairobi Water come round and insist that you pay for the connection, the reconnection? I came back, I engaged qua ground, as they say, and I discovered that actually Nairobi Water was not involved in this process. That this is a private contractor contracted by a building developer, and they had not followed procedure to essentially put a huge sewer line along the road reserve, across Lenana Road, and right across the front of First Community Bank. And the authorities just did not know it was happening at the time. They had been correspondence much earlier in the year, we discovered. But essentially, as I called the authorities in Dagoretti North, they were like, what are you talking about? So I had to send photographs. And what struck me with that was just how easy it is for things of a huge nature, infrastructural developments can take place without any oversight from the county government, Kura, or Nairobi Water. I reported it to the county government just a day ago, and they were horrified. And in fact, action has been taken because they didn't have enough people on the ground. So I think I tell you the story because in some ways, these are things that are very public. It's not just that somebody has been shot at night and was buried, or rather was taken to the mortuary and then buried. But you can have huge public infrastructure projects that can affect, hundreds of people very directly. You couldn't pass the road for 2 days. And we don't take action. And I think what we need to do is we need to have civic organizations continuing to educate people. Who is responsible for sewer lines? Who is responsible for streets? Who is responsible for reclamation, or rather beautification, post the evidence? And there are many other cases like that. Where do you go if your uncle has been treated in a hospital, but because Shah Shif is not working, who do you complain to? Right? How do you ensure that they're not shackled to a bed until the Harambee takes place and people are released? Right? If your child shows up to school in January and there is not enough, there's no there's no desk, there's no books, who do you complain to? And I think that's the level of culture. If we can generate that kind of a culture, then what you have is a society that's able, first of all, to understand its rights and to claim them.
Runga Houghton, you've said the Constitution has set the standard on how we should operate. As many would say, the Constitution is very clear. That statement in its own self, it's a question of reading, understanding, and knowing the standard that has been set by the Republic. So here, like the story that you've given, is a story where you go back to pre-independent, and the sewer system in Nairobi was built up. The country has grown, but then there's always been the pressure. We are developing so fast, but there is no sewer system.
Right.
So when someone knocks at your door and tells you, we've increased the size of the sewer system and we just connect you, it makes sense, But remember, at the end of the day,
until they tell you 40,000
until
shillings.
it tells you it's 45,000 shillings. But remember, even while at that, the permits were given for this individual to construct this building. That means at that board there is clear information on who the contractor is, and everything is there because they have licenses. And one would hope that authorities that are in charge of oversight, authorities that ought to have come on the ground to ensure that everything is going to plan, are not doing their job. Those that Kenyans have donated their power to take care of them, to ensure that everything is working right, are not doing that job. Because every day, Irungu, I would not sit here and say that individuals within the county did not know. They were part of this cartel that we keep talking about on a daily basis, because majority of people who live in Kilimani, who work at county, live in Kilimani,
Right.
they use the road on a daily basis. To say that they did not know will be a lie, but paints a picture of individuals that have been donated this power but do not care about the Momanyi, including the rights that they have given themselves through the Constitution.
So I think that a couple of things there. I mean, one is that, as a result of that intervention, for example, nobody on that street paid for a connection. Right, because they were connected before. They were disconnected. In fact, as I looked at one of the sewer pipes, the contractor had basically disconnected it and then put plastic bags into the pipe. So that it wouldn't disturb the the sewer line they were putting in until the people paid. Right, so it's almost a form of blackmail. Right. But I think the other thing to recognize is that, governments, even county governments, are a bit of a behemoth. Behemoth is the English word, but they are huge. They are somewhat not very well connected. The information flows are not great, and they don't have enough eyes and ears on the ground, right? So, yes, they may have been, like you say, maybe even 40 county government officers who pass that way, but none of them are tasked with the responsibility of essentially, overseeing the installation of sewer lines, right? So they assume that somebody else has done it. And I think that's the other culture that we have to be careful about. I mean, I think the three debilitating mindsets in the country at the moment, and I think it's also global. One is this idea of whataboutism. So whenever we bring up an issue, people say, but what about? And I realized after a while listening to this, I realized actually what people do is it's a kind of psychosis. It's a psychological way of helping you evade any responsibility to take action. Because if you can point out 6 other examples, then whoa, this problem is too big for all of us. Let's just go back to being consumers. Forget about being citizens. The second problem is this idea that somebody else will deal with it. Right? So we are not responsible 100% 24/7 for the environment around us. Our lives are getting smaller by the day, and we are really beginning to become those people that can't live. They have no responsibility for anything outside our Wi-Fi spots. Right, so if you're at home, if the Wi-Fi is working, everything is good. You can even have national and international opinions, but actually you're not taking any action. Right. So that's the second mindset. The third one, really, I think, is this idea that somehow, if we just continue with our lives, the governance will get better. Right, and I think what we're learning is that no, actually, the more we retreat, the more the culture of impunity and the weaknesses in our institutions begin to proliferate, and you begin to look around and think, well, actually, maybe that constitution we passed in 2010 was just a calendar, and we have another one now. Right, so I think that's the concerns that we've got. There also, I think you have to say that there are lots of incentives for people not to engage, for people not to come out of their homes and just go take a walk. Like, where is the sewer line that is, now becoming a big issue for all of us in terms of, where do we connect and the manholes and stuff like that. So I think that's the other thing is that I was at Kyoto school about 2 weeks ago to hand out prizes to all these wonderful young students there, and I made 2 points to them. I said, until human rights becomes like a toothbrush, right, like an everyday essential, then we're actually not going to see the kind of culture and the country that we want to see. And the second one was this one, was that, for young people, and particularly, for all people, I think, if you don't know the people on your street, then actually, technically speaking, you may be on this planet, but you're not of this planet. You're displaced.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Isaac Ali earlier told us that you were at Kyoto School and we say hi because you handed over 4 trophies.
Oh, is it?
To his son?
Yes, yes.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. So he just said that
it was a wonderful moment, actually, just watching those young kids.
Yeah. But Irungu, why do you think there is a sense of we do not care, it's their problem? Why is there a sense of, when we talk about human rights, one would ask, there's always this argument that whenever there is, say, a protest and there is confrontation between protesters and police, you'd hear when Kenyans have been killed, protesters have been killed, one would just wake up and say, when you throw a stone at a police, what do you expect? You think that rifle or bullets are flowers. They will use it against you. When you attack a police officer, what do you think they would do? They will have to fight back. Even if someone threw a stone and you have a gun and bullets, one asks the question, does it warrant killing someone using a gun, and police officers with the training that they go through and the curriculum that they go through, how they trained to measure or gauge on when to use guns? But even then, you look at, like you say, June and July being the epicenter of what went through the country, and Kenyans were killed for having a flag, water, and handkerchief. And one asks the question, seems as if killing has become so easy that we do not care. I was having a conversation with one of our senior head of cameraman here in Standard, and says back in the days it would be a big story when a single life was taken in Kenya. Today 4 people would die and it has become normal. It has been normalized that it only becomes a big story when you have hundreds and hundreds of people that are dying. Yet in this same country, a single life being taken away would be a national story. Have we reduced ourselves to a point where loss of life is just a cup of tea?
So in all societies where there is kind of like a chronic slide towards either violence or insecurity or authoritarianism, what we know from kind of the studies is that people find ways of adjusting, right? It's a little bit like, with the economy. As our incomes begin to shrink with inflation of commodities that are important to us or services that we need, we begin to think kind of like in this kadogo economy mindset, right? So you downscale, right? You adjust. And one of the things that, Martin Luther King used to say is never adjust to oppression. Right? Never adjust to, economic decline. You need to rise and challenge it, right? Because ultimately what happens is you will see yourself become smaller and smaller by the day. And I think that's part of the dynamic, is that we are all adjusting and we're numbing ourselves just because the pain of, watching, Denzel Omondi's parents or Rex Masai's parents have to go to court, basically looking for justice, or we wonder what happened to Bridget Wainaina, the young girl, the 12-year-old girl in Kiambu who was shot in her home, not on a protest. What happened to that level of anguish? And I think that's a very natural human response. But I think it's important to recognize that actually it does not fix the problem, right? So this December, we've just published Lest We Forget Chapter 2. And this is essentially a series of testimonies of family members of people who died over 2025. And it includes people like Vincent Otieno, who was shot through the head while he was seated waiting for a chance to see his leader, Raila Odinga, for the last time in that stadium, you know. So it is important, I think, for us to continue to memorize people, you know, because you realize that actually, you know, this does matter. And like, you know, I think the families of many of the people that have been, you know, that have been killed this year, they never thought they would have to bury their loved ones, right? So the message I send back to people is there is no comfort in this idea that, you know, somehow this will not affect me. Right? We know for a fact, for example, in 2024, there were many young people who were the children of members of parliament who were voting in the National Assembly. We know that there were children of police officers who were in the streets. We know that there were, you know, cabinet secretaries. Children were in the streets. And that's why it was just so important for organizations like Amnesty and others to make sure that actually the use of excessive and disproportionate force was not used against protesters, not just simply because they were the children of the 5% of the population, but because they were everybody's children.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's I think, the framework. What we've seen in other countries now, you know, if we think about Tanzania, for example, and 2 days ago, we held our breath because given what we saw on the 29th of October, in those 3 days, the Suluhu administration probably has killed somewhere in the range of anywhere between 1,000 to 3,000 human beings over a 4-day process. Now, if you put that into context, let's take the upper level. And again, because of the internet shutdown, there's no official independent verification of how many people died. That's probably twice as many people who died during the post-election violence in 2008.
Yes.
It is more people that have died in the entire period of the NRM government in Uganda. Those 4 days, right? So I think the other thing to think about is, yes, we have these slow, I guess, kind of chronic slides that come in the Kenyan context. But I think for places like Tanzania, you can see a spike that can actually not only just kill large numbers of people, but it can actually erode the concept of electoral democracy. And it's important for us because, you know, it's not just, you know, some people have been saying, and it's said lightly, but it actually has quite a lot of power, that, you know, Tanzania was the quarterfinals, Uganda is the semifinals, Kenya will be the finals. There are a couple of things with that which, you know, we can push a little bit. One is that it's not just Uganda that's having elections in January, but next year we've got South Sudan and Ethiopia, right? And secondly, the other thing about this is that, you know, the challenge is not just in terms of the toll in terms of lives, it's also about whether electoral democracy actually is a viable way of choosing leaders, right? Because we get to a point where, you know, you either have an election, which is bound by laws, or you have an auction where essentially the political class that have either stolen or earned large amounts of money just buy voters. And the third one is an insurrection, right? Those seem to be the three options
right now,
unfortunately.
Yes. Sadly.
I vote for the first one. My voice is I just have one vote.
Yes. And if we look at the practice, and it's not just, I mean, like you say, it's across countries. If you look at the practice, that at the end of an election, the complaints that we get, whether it is contestation, whether it is, you know, conflict as a result of it, or all-out war because of what has happened during an election, seems to be the modus operandi. So how do we get to the place whereby we're thinking differently? And folks have said often that it is through education that I go to China and I think about the times when we read of Chairman Mao, who inculcated a way of life into people's minds and into people's hardware, into people's software and into people's network. And this was in schools, that Chinese children grew up knowing a certain ideology and practicing it, living it, breathing it until they grew up. And so whether it was indoctrination, whether it was a way of life, what happened after that is that then when governments and individuals would come together to talk about a certain thing, it was then easy for the people to pick it up because they started from when they were young. is there a case to be made for some of these things that we speak about to be linked to an education system from the very beginning, for children to understand that your rights are your rights and that you can push for those rights under a constitution, which is the umbrella law of any land? Is it time? Is Kenya at the point where it can start to think around that, or are we still dealing with who would win an election for us to be a little bit more mature about what we can do when it comes to practice of rights?
Yeah. No, I'm a great fan of civics, and one of the things, going back to that experience with the Kyoto school, was, I said to them, the home is the first classroom. Right? And the other part of that is that, if you are not careful in terms of how you, manage the information that comes to your child, your children's first teachers might end up being WhatsApp and TikTok, right? So I think it's important that we actually intentionally think about what are the national values under Article 10 of the Constitution, or the section that talks about the values of democracy, the values of ethics, the values of human rights and justice and so on, and actually invest in them. And there's just too little investment in that side of things. I've often thought that, half of our problems, the challenges that we have in this, in our country, really stem from the lack of investment in terms of public participation. And one of the things that I'm hoping will happen in the next season of the Parliament, when they reopen, is the passing of the public participation bill, because I think it will create a framework within which we can expect government to, when they are, introducing policy changes, that they actually come intentionally to consult with us. I mean, the US-Kenya deal, the health deal, which has caused so much of a debate over the last 1 week, now we've finally seen the documents, and the documents that we've seen are not as bad as the earlier drafts that we were all concerned about. But the fact of the matter is that there was hardly any, no public participation on the process, and one would assume that, if the state operates in an open, transparent way, then half of the tensions that come after the passing of the policy will not be there.
Right. I'm sorry, and just to think about what kind of precedent then could be set on some of these things when we talk about, yes, okay, we can bring it up in our families and have these conversations. My mind goes back to a few years ago when the famous case of George Floyd in the US, where literally his neck was, trampled on. And because of the pictures and the public outcry, there's a man behind bars today, a police officer who before that had sworn that he hadn't done anything wrong, but that the courts found differently. I'm not going to focus on that, but what happened after that, as a result of that, is that then we see, maybe we perceived, that United States police officers then were a little bit more cautious or careful about how they operated after that. So precedent was set, and in a way in which it was never done before. Do we need a precedent setter, especially when it comes to these numbers that we're talking about, whether it's 1 or 97, whether it's 1,000 or 1,000,000? That if you know that the law or the power that has been put in your hands is not for abuse but for use, if there's a precedent setter where it's very clear that you cannot do this, I think about Albert Ojwang, who till today we don't know. I think about Brian Odhiambo, who we don't know if KWS killed him or not. I think about, and this is just this year, if somebody was to pay for what they did, would it set precedent about then how human rights are respected and or kept in country?
I mean, I think ultimately, if there are no consequences for breaking the law will be broken infinitum. It will continue and continue and continue. And I think what is really critical in these kind of cases is making sure that there is swift investigations, that the prosecution happens quickly, and that you have essentially protection for the witnesses, the forensic evidence is secured, and the families get independent counsel, right? So this is the model that we've been using. The challenge of, I think the challenge we've seen, particularly from the 2024-25 period, and potentially even the 2023 period, is that the cases are essentially investigated by IPOA, a fraction of those cases get to court. And the weakest link, unfortunately, has been the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. There are too many cases that have got stuck in the offices there that have just not moved to prosecution, and therefore the judges cannot take action. And they cannot even sit on those cases. I don't know if you remember the Masimba killings a few years back. This was a community that got very angry and blocked a road, and I believe 10 people were killed that day. That case was investigated. IPOR essentially recommended that charges be placed against police officers. The ODPP declined and said, no, this is not sufficient. Let's go to an inquest. The inquest took place. 3 years later, the inquest has just come back and said, as far as we can see, there is a case to answer, and we have the suspects. Now, 3 years have lapsed since that period, right? The anguish of that community is just unimaginable. And I think that's the work that human rights organizations have to do, is to try and shorten the period between essentially a violation and justice. That's our job. And in the case, you mentioned the panel of experts on the compensation. There's a degree of truth to that, which is that you can't compensate a life like in a straight transactional analysis. All you can do is symbolically declare that you are responsible, as a state, for having taken that life, and essentially provide reparations, right? And what was being attempted in the panel of experts was to try and short circuit the 7 years that usually it takes for somebody whose rights have been violated, to the point at which they can get a court determination of compensation, and simply say, if the state is willing to acknowledge that this person, Rex Masai, for example, was shot in a circumstances in which there were police officers on an operation, without finding criminal culpability in that process, we can compensate that family. But the thing that's really important about the panel of experts, which of course now is still stayed, there's been a good development, I think, in terms of the balanced judgment that came out of Kerugoya just this week, which essentially was to say that the best place for this work to take place is under the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. And as a member of the panel, I agree with that. Right? In fact, my public message over the weekend was that the state should not appeal that decision, and furthermore that they should not take their foot off the pedal to try and bring this to a close, because that's the danger, right?
You see, Houghton, there is bodies that have been placed and have been given power by the Constitution to protect the law. You speak about police, what's their role? To maintain law and order, and protect human life as well. They've been donated that power by Kenyans to take care of them, It is only a police officer holding a gun who, in a time when they have to use that gun, they will use it under the law, And there is also the aspect of uneasm, at leastism, that exists in this country. So here is a question where human rights have deteriorated over time, but you'd find someone sit and say, at least we're not like Tanzania. At least we're not like
this is
Uganda.
the fifth mindset that I left out.
At least we're not like so and so. And through this ism that continues to creep onto Kenyans, many have forgotten on what their role is in being part and parcel of the conversation and ensuring that the law is not a suggestion, that the law is protected and that everyone plays under that right. So let's talk about the police. They know what they need to do. There's a reason why you go to Kiganjo for 9 months. You are taught on how to protect this law, how to use this gun, and even how to take commands. But at the end of the day, you find they become tools for hire by the political class. He who gives much will always call the shots. I'm sorry to say that. Then we have Kenyans who will always say, Mimi, when it comes to demos, Irungo Houghton and crew can go, I fear dying. At least they can fight for us. Us, we can just chill at home and follow that on TV. Comment on the need of those with responsibility of maintaining law and order, police, to ensure that they do that on a daily basis, that the government ensures that the police have the independence that they have, and that it is also not they are independent when we are campaigning, but it is a lived experience that Kenyans have to see as well.
Yeah. I mean, let me go, before I come to the essence of your question, let me start with the first one, which is this idea that somehow we are exclusive and that we are really we're the clean ones in a dirty neighborhood. And I think it's such a false analysis. I used to still meet a number of diplomats that come into the country. And as we're describing what's happening in Kenya, often I see them begin to do screensaver looks, right? So I can see that they're like, yeah, I hear, Mr. Amnesty, this is, there are some problems here. But, if you just look at our neighbors, right, that's where the intention of the embassy needs to be focused. So I started arguing, after seeing this as a pattern, I started thinking, well, maybe actually what I need to do is I need to anchor them in our constitution, because without our constitution, everything collapses, right? And it's the same thing for Uganda, Tanzania, and Eritrea and Ethiopia. That the constitutional order, the legal framework, is what's critical and the starting point. So stop comparing us to our neighbors and start comparing us to the standards set by the Constitution. Now, what's interesting in your comment is that Kenyans are behaving like diplomats, almost like people coming to the country for the first time and saying, whoa, I know things are bad, but let's not think about what's happening next door. We are doing so much better. As Amnesty International, we try not to compare, right? Because a death is a death is a death, right? It's critical that we do not get into this idea of some kind of economic analysis on one hand, the other hand, and so on, but just to be very clear factually what's happening against the constitutional order. Let me come to your point about police officers. I mean, I think the thing, that I speak to police officers very regularly. The thing I remind them is, first and foremost, they're human rights defenders.
Yes.
They are essentially even more mandated than an Amnesty International, a Muhuri, a Vocal Africa, an IMBLU, a Kenya Human Rights Commission, than we, in terms of protection of human rights. Yes. They have a mandate that comes from laws. There is no law, there's no constitution that says Amnesty must do X, right? They are mandated by law. So that's the first place. The second one is a moral obligation, right? An ethical obligation. As a professional, your job is crime detection and security for all people, right? So if I can speak to as a professional, right? And I know there are some people who would argue the police officers are not professional, but they are. They are. It's a profession. People choose that profession, right? And I think as we would say to teachers, you can't train as a teacher and then decide you don't want to teach. You can't be a doctor and decide in the surgery room, I don't feel like, I'm not feeling it today, right? There is, as we say, there is no otherwise, right? You are a professional. That is your job. If you don't like the job, then go teach, go medicate, go support other people in different ways. So there is no, I guess, exit for that. And I think the key thing that we have been saying is that, where you do your work well, you must be compensated well. You must be rewarded well. We saw this week the return of police officers from Haiti.
Yes.
And we were quite critical 3 years ago. We didn't think that the mission was well anchored. We were worried about the funding that was there. We worried about, what do
their
you
lives.
do? Their lives. And, how do you operate in an environment where you don't even speak the local language, right? Now, of course, Benedict Washira didn't make it back, right? He was the officer that was announced to the country as the officer that had gone missing. But many of them did come back. And I kind of wondered, in some ways, what would that have been? What was that experience like? And I do hope that they will write and talk about their experiences. But ultimately, I think the greater story is that I do progressively believe, based on the information that we've had, is that they played a role in protecting the rights of Haitians, right? So in that sense, despite the criticism, despite the concerns, many of them have come back, and many of them, have provided to some stability in the Haitian side. But unfortunately, they come back with great uncertainty about who's going to take over that role. So they may have held the ground, but the ground is not solid yet.
You just painted an amazing picture of these officers who went to Haiti. They are the same police officers. They come from the AP unit, right? Which is just another arm of the police, not military. And these are individuals who went to a troubled country and protected lives, property of the people of Haiti. That means we have a professional police officers who, if allowed to just do the policing, they will take care of Kenyans, Pastor.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most of the officers I've met are like that. Their history was, the family, there was their father was a police officer, a member of their family was a police officer. They've always admired the uniform. They've had this wish to be able to protect people. Those are the police officers that need to be promoted into positions. Some of them are very angry with the kind of instructions that they receive. Others are more worried about, breaking the law and then being left in a courtroom alone, right? And often, what they say is that, in that moment, we might get, a legal officer from Vigilance House, but ultimately we are alone, carrying a cross that we thought was somehow policy, right? So I think one of the things that we have to do is to make sure that their right, that the independence that is enshrined in the Constitution is protected. It's essentially not allowed to slide into this weaponization that we've seen in the last few months. Secondly, I think the other thing, hopefully going forward in 2026, is that we will not see parallel informal units. I think we've been very concerned about multi-agency task forces that don't seem to have clear lines of command. Particularly in the surveillance work, that they've been doing using technology. We've been very worried about the abductions. We've been very worried about the use of non-uniformed and unmarked vehicles, because essentially that is the slide to a different constitutional order or disorder, if I can put it that way. Which, of course, we saw take place in Tanzania, to the extent that there were very many rumors that actually at some point Tanzanian sovereignty was breached by the presence of Ugandan military personnel, in which case then the question is, have you lost everything? Have you lost the ability to be able to hold an international, an Independence Day celebration? Have you lost the ability to be sworn in as a president in the public? Have you lost the ability effectively to be able to govern a country? And that's the danger of crippling electoral processes, that actually citizens don't feel like they have a choice. All your opposition candidates are behind bars, being charged with treason, and ultimately everything that you thought you were pulling together to try and stay in place is actually just a slide towards authoritarianism and insecurity. And how do you govern like that?
That we have these conversations, that we can continue to put these things in the limelight, is one of the things that pushes the needle. That we say, why do we keep talking about it? But if we don't, then that we don't make it clear that we are aware. And that to make one more person today aware of what some of these conversations are, I think is a marked progression in that journey. Thank you for never being silent about these things, and thank you for continuing to come and have these conversations with us, that with the needle moves every time you do.
Thank you very much.
Edongo Houghton is the Executive Director of Amnesty International Kenya, has been with us this morning, and hopefully that space widens. It's been shrinking. It must widen.
It must widen.
It must widen. 2:08. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leo Baga. The results of the Grade 9 KCSE are set to be released today. This follows last month's assessment introduced under the new CBE system, which replaced the KCPE. And like the KCPE, KCSE candidates will not receive specific marks. The results will instead determine their placement in secondary schools next year. The Ministry of Education maintains that the CBE system ends the era of school rankings and public celebrations over exam scores. DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua has accused former Cabinet Secretary and Presidential Advisor Moses Kuria of what he says is being used to divide the opposition votes in the Mbeere North by-election. In an interview with KTN, Gachagua maintained that Kuria is being used by President William Ruto to ensure that voters in the Mount Kenya region do not vote for one candidate in the upcoming general elections.
Kuria is part of the Ruto administration. His party, the Chama cha Kazi, is one of the many wheelbarrows I talk about. You know, Ruto has so many wheelbarrows in the mountain, parties that he uses for his own use. So he called that a wheelbarrow. to get this guy. This guy got 2,500 votes. Those votes, because of the clan dynamics, would have gone to neutral carries. Yeah, despite the theft of the election and the voter suppression and the bribery and the violence, probably if those votes went to him, it would have been different. And I have told the people of the mountain, this is going to happen a little bit more. There are so many wheelbarrows in the mountain, and William Ruto will be checking where it is. He introduces 2-3 wheelbarrows to divide the vote.
Regarding the 2027 general election, Gachagua has said he does not trust the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. However, he added that any attempt by the government to distort the results of the election will be futile.
What will happen in 2007? There will be 10 agents for the MCs. There will be another 6 agents for the MP. There will be another 4 agents for the governor. There will be another 4 agents for the senator. There will be another 3 agents for the women rep. There will be 6 agents for the president. You will find in a classrooms there are 30 agents. And those 30 agents, you cannot make them agree on how to bugger the election because they have different interests. So what will happen is that all of them will protect the credibility of the vote. You know? The agents, because they are many, they will protect the credibility of the vote. Again, each candidate will organize men to protect the polling station from goons.
The former deputy president has once again defended himself against his removal from office through a motion passed by Parliament last year, saying his differences with President Ruto were based on his stance against the looting of public property. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on Spice FM.
SRC's mandate is constitutional. It's not an advice. It's actually something we must do.
Must do. Like now you abandon, of course, the narrative of wheelbarrow, Mutu wa Mjengo, Mama Mboga, and all those, that rosy narrative.
Your expenditure is 3.3 trillion, and you're collecting only 2.5. Out of that 2.5, you're spending 1.8 trillion to service loans and so forth.
That the CDF kit, it's itself a symptom of corruption.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 7 minutes after 8 o'clock and it continues this morning. And you need to have some numbers in your pocket in order to get some things unlimited.
Yes. 19 shillings,
All
1
right.
hour. 45 shillings, 3 hours. And you see, confidence is something that you need to regain every single day. You know why? Because Airtel, through its Airtel Unlimited Fun Data Bundles, is here to assure you that everything that you want to do, streaming music, streaming your movies, attending your meetings, signing business deals, or negotiating internationally, Airtel is here to assure you that when you purchase this data bundle, haita katika. It is there for that period, and you do not have to worry about anything at all.
Right.
You know, and with this, it's just fear of missing out. Imagine you're striking a deal, a multi-million deal, but you are afraid that data is going to inaenda kukatika in the next 10 minutes.
I refuse.
Is telling you that deal, you will seal it, you will sign it, and it will be a success. But tell us about your story of missing out, because we wanted to give you airtime worth 3,000 Kenya shillings. In the meantime, remember, for you to get these data bundles, where do you go to? How do you purchase it? *544#, or you go to your My Airtel app. Where do you get it? Play Store or Google Play Store or App Store, where you get to download it and install it, and you get to purchase these data bundles. Also, another way is you get yourself an Airtel line from any Airtel shop close by, and you get to enjoy everything new.
Kabisa. That's what we're looking at. And as people are making their plans and you're thinking as though you may actually be suffering from this same fear of missing out, you actually don't need to, because ICA Lion says, you know what, all you need to do is talk to us. Just tell us, what is it that you want to do in the next 10 years? You feel like you should have settled down? You feel that you should have put aside some savings here and there? You should have achieved 1, 2, 3? Let's have a conversation with you, because the question is, what's your plan? If you have a plan, let ICEA Lion help you bring it to life. All you have to do is get onto the website, icealion.co.ke. Ask the question, somebody will answer. It's digital tools to help you plan how you'll do it over the next 10 years. Put something aside every period, whether it's every week, every month, every quarter, whatever the case may be. ICA Lion is ready to walk the path with you to ensure that you can actually bring your dreams and make them a reality. So get on today. icealion.co.ke. So today's Thursday. If you head on down to the Sarit Center, you will be able to experience the Masai Market, which happens Wednesday and Thursday every week in Sarit. And you can buy me that Christmas gift that you were wondering, okay, so what do I buy? It's that you can go to Masai Market at Sarit Center and you will be spoiled for choice in terms of what you can do. Now, while you're shopping, you can also listen to the wonderful choral performances that will be going on around through Sarit. You can meet and greet with Mr. and Mrs. Santa. You can have photo moments with the elves, and also fun appearances by Rudolph with surprise encounters by the Grinch. So also spin the wheel for instant prizes, earn points as you shop with your Sarit loyalty app. And like we said, what has taken us there is that we're going to shop at Masai Market. Enjoy and experience festive cheer and magical moments all season long, only at Sarit. We're getting into the Christmas season proper, and that's how we do it. It's 11 minutes after 8, and our guest is seated this hour. Wakili, good morning to you. How are you doing?
You know, I'm not able to ask whether I ask about Lagos or Nairobi.
Why not? Just ask me, how is Lagos? I know what's going on even now.
How is Lagos?
Okay, we're just waking up at 6 a.m. It's 6:11 in Lagos. Njeri is an advocate of the High Court and sits in the hot seat with us this morning. He's been away for a while. He's been, digging in the trenches, but he's here this morning.
Yeah.
Karibu sana.
Thank you so
Wakili.
much. And how is Dennis?
Salama sana, ukoaje?
Niko fiti.
Good to see you.
Tunang'ang'ana.
Muhimu.
Yeah.
Hivyo ndio Wakenya wote wanasema.
Wakenya wanavumilia, bro.
Okay.
Hii story ni noma.
We're going to get into it just a little bit.
Hii story ni noma. Hii story hii nchi yetu ni noma sana.
Okay.
Hey, we got to work and do something.
All right.
Okay. Before we get to that,
yes,
Dennis is going to give us today's proverb. Love your interpretation of it.
Yes.
From the Congo, beautiful country, many resources.
Yes.
The only thing that the country is dealing with right now that is a problem is security.
Yes.
We only hope and continue to wish them the very best that the country gets to enjoy peace. But let's go to the proverb.
Yeah.
When you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes, but monkey stays.
Take it again. When you marry
a monkey for its wealth,
yes,
the money goes, but the monkey stays.
When you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes and the monkey stays.
Yes.
I would take it perhaps an example of a monkey and a banana that doesn't know how to, it's not a good, it doesn't have the stewardship traits that cannot nurture, and therefore it's just like you've put your money in the river and it just flows. So I'm looking at the question of the ability to nurture, the issue of the ability to grow, and to be a good steward of what has been placed on your hands. You might want to go biblical and perhaps quote the story of the parables. One was given 5, nurtured them. One was given 1, never nurtured. So I think that the story, the biblical story vis-a-vis the Congolese proverb. But again, you could also look at the wealth in Congo, that they are not able to exploit the wealth because of the instability that is currently existing, which has been instigated by the enemies of the African continent. So the fact is that Congolese have all the wealth which can change the destiny of Africa, which can change the destiny of the world, but they're not able to exploit it because the country is in the hands of the monkeys. Yes.
Why?
Yeah. And of course, the monkeys in Congo are not just exclusively in Congo.
Okay.
They stretch all the way to Kenya.
Through.
Some of them are actually here. We are dealing with them here, but they are trying to destabilize the entire East Africa. So monkeys ni nyingi sana.
Okay.
Hata huku kwetu uko nayo.
Okay. Interesting that you say that.
Yes.
Well, looking into things political a little bit, we've come off of a by-election just about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Where decisions were made, but we saw a number of other things happening. Prior to that, we saw things that we were confused about because we were not quite sure. The law is clear.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
The law is clear about certain things. And one of them is that state officers cannot use their offices and or resources to campaign. That's clear.
Yes, that's clear.
But somehow we still keep doing it.
Yes.
And this by-election, I mean, we've repeated it over and over again, but we need to use this to look forward.
Yes.
Because it said it is a precursor for what is coming in 2027.
Yes.
So if we break the law with wanton abandon, are we likely to see the same thing happening? And why, if it's against the law and understood, why do we still see a breaking of it?
We have a problem in this country. We got ourselves a new constitution, a perfect document, a progressive one, but it was placed on the wrong hands for its implementation. The people who were given the first opportunity to attempt to implement the document, they had no idea how Kenya got this document. Both the first, the Uhuru tried his best to see to it that the constitution was implemented, but he never followed through the whole process of its implementation. So those people who fought for the constitution were never granted the opportunity to implement it. The architectures of the constitution were not the ones who were to operationalize the constitution. So Uhuru tried his best to see to it that the constitution has been realized, the purpose of it has been achieved, but never followed through, because some of the institutions that had been created under the new constitution, like the Commission on the Implementation of the Constitution, lapsed before the full implementation could be realized. So now we left the process of the implementation to the politicians. And the reason why we had come up with the CIC was to make sure that we delink the process of the implementation of the constitution from the political maneuvers. So unfortunately, we never thought through that we needed this commission for the next 10 or 15 years to see to it and to midwife the process of the implementation. So when the time for the CIC, which was led by Chair Nyachai, the former judge of the East African Court of Justice, lapsed, we never thought how else we could have had the another midwife to process through constitutional implementation. So that is why we are now here today. That even with a progressive constitution, a constitution that wanted to shape the political destiny of this country, delink service provision from politics, we are where we are because the individual that we currently have in power does not appreciate the constitution, does not believe in it. He was not part of the process that brought forth this constitution. For him, he was still comfortable with the 1963 constitution other than the progressive one. So for him, for Mr. William Ruto to say that the ministers, the CSAs and the PSAs are to be involved in politics, for him, he never moved. He has never moved from 1963. That is where he is today. And that's why you can see all these political mishaps happening in the country.
Yeah. There's a question here.
Yeah.
And I just ask it plainly because
but please do.
You're the lawyer. Let's interpret it.
Yeah.
Are ministers state officers? Secretaries?
If you look at the definition of state officers under the Constitution, that is Article 260 of the Constitution, it has two categories. It defines who is a public officer and who is a state officer. And the test is very simple. If your salary is determined, accrues from the consolidated funds, if your salary is linked to the consolidated funds, you are a state officer or a public officer. Number two, if your money is allocated by Parliament for purposes of your use, you are either a state officer or a public officer. That is a test under Article 260 of the Constitution. Therefore, to answer the fact that the money that is allocated to the cabinet secretaries is allocated by Parliament and that it accrues from the consolidated funds, they are state officers.
And by virtue by them being state officers, the Constitution as well addresses itself on state officers when it comes to election laws under the Election Act and their participation on the same.
Yes.
And what does that say?
It says that as soon as you are a state officer, you must delink yourself from active politics of the day. And the whole idea was to enhance service delivery and delink service delivery from politics. That is the whole architectural theory behind the legislation of that particular provision. Because we realized that service delivery is always lost in the politics of the day. So we wanted to professionalize our public service vehicle by delinking it from the politics of the day and concentrate on delivering of
that
services.
means the Constitution at that point, as it looked at that point, it's the reason why any member of Parliament who was to be appointed to be a cabinet secretary had to resign to delink themselves from the politics of the day. That means today, as we look at an immediate member of Parliament who resigned from that seat, going back to the campaign trail, it means that is abrogation of the law and playing politics.
There cannot be.
Yet they understand the reason why they had to resign to be cabinet
There
secretaries.
cannot be a good interpretation like the one that you have given today. Number two, don't you forget that our constitutional architecture again resembles the model where we have the presidential system of governance. As opposed to the previous one, the Westminster concept, where we had the parliamentary system. So in a presidential system, we always aspire to have a complete separation of powers between the legislature and the executive, the executive and the judiciary and the legislature. So to the extent that you are a cabinet secretary, in view of the doctrine of separation of powers, you are supposed to completely delink yourself from the politics of the day, because you cannot serve two masters. You cannot be in the executive and you're equally in the legislature. Number two, it was to enhance accountability and transparency in the manner in which we run government. One of it being the fact that you are no longer a member of Parliament. It therefore means that Parliament will have, in its effort to enhance accountability and transparency, and number two, in its efforts to enhance checks and balances over the executive will be highly checked by the legislature, that is Parliament. That is why we say you cannot be a member of Parliament and equally be a cabinet secretary, as opposed to contrary to what was happening before. So to enhance accountability and oversight over the excesses of the executive, we are all agreed Kama wewe ni waziri, kaa kama waziri. Kama wewe ni mbunge, kaa kama mbunge. So to the extent that William Ruto has decided that the executive will participate in the politics of the day, he is already in abrogation of the constitution. He has violated the constitution. He has disregarded the constitution. If we had a parliament that we contemplated and aspired to have, Dennis, in the 2010 document, today William Ruto would be standing to urge to answer to the impeachment queries if we had the parliament that we contemplated. And that is why we said that we do not want to constitute parliament and constitute executive. We also give the quality of the executive member that we wish to have and the legislatures. And that is why we said the minimum qualification that you must have for you to be a cabinet secretary is a degree. The assumption was that a person with a degree is rational, is reasonable, is responsive to the circumstances surrounding the appointment procedures and all that. We equally said that we do not want to take idiots to parliament and mediocres. That's why you also give some standard for them to acquire and to achieve before you become a member of parliament. We were looking at having quality legislatures in parliament. We were looking at having quality legislation in parliament. But unfortunately, that has been watered down to the extent that today you can have a member of parliament who can hardly either express himself in Kiswahili or English or even his mother tongue. He cannot express himself. And of course, noting that mother tongue is not one of the languages that we can execute business with in parliament, then we are disadvantaged. That is why you can see William Ruto can sit pretty, abrogate the constitution, violate it because he knows he is no member of parliament who is credible enough to pinpoint fingers on them. And those that are aggressive, they are muted by the parliamentary systems. You remember the other day when Honorable Mboi, of a member of Kadhiani, rose up to raise an issue against these issues of privatization of our parastatus. He was muted, deliberately muted by the deputy speaker. And so what we are saying is that the parliament has been so captured by the executive to the extent that even reasonable members of parliament, like those of Mbowe and the member of parliament, I think where we are now currently seated in Bakasi, Honorable Mawadhe, they are muted. They are humiliated. They are not given an opportunity to express themselves. So checks and balances, oversight is done. That is why people can sell companies like Safaricom without anyone raising fingers. When Mbowe attempted to raise a finger that would have attempted to save the situation, parliament is emasculated.
Yeah. Now, if we're looking at a situation whereby it appears, according to what you're saying, there's such a clear abrogation of the law.
Yes, and William should be impeached on that basis.
If that's the case, why does it seem as though it's so accepted? Nobody seems to have an issue with it. It happens, and then we look at it and we say, okay, well, that has happened and how terrible it is.
Yes.
But that's just about the farthest that we go. We use these phrases all the time.
Yes.
Until now, members of parliament are talking about the fact that they themselves have been captured.
Yes.
We've been captured, we know we've been captured, but we're still kind of here.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem as though anybody has a real issue with it.
They have real issues with it. But remember, it's not just parliament that has been emasculated. He has equally emasculated the voice of the people. How? Remember, the 2010 Constitution has created various levels of enhancing accountability, transparency, and the rule of law. First level is where the people elect their representatives with an idea or with an aspiration that these individuals at a particular point X will be able to execute the functions of holding government to account. But when you go there, William Ruto emasculates them the way he has emasculated them.
How does this happen?
But William Ruto, in the 2022 elections, he made sure that we have, he has completely mutilated the whole idea of quality members of parliament and decided to concentrate on quantity. Do you understand what I mean?
But these people...
For him, he was looking at the number of the members of parliament who are going to support his programs of selling Kenya and collapsing the systems, as opposed to the legislators who were qualitative enough to challenge his processes.
But they were in parliament. He found these members of parliament. They all ran at the same time. Or are you saying that he...
How would you justify...
process of nomination is how
would you justify that a constituency where I come from, we have elected a member of parliament who is a lawyer. Gishigo constituency, Gishimo. But even when bad legislation is taking place, he never speaks. He has no voice. And we thought that electing this individual as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, at least he would ensure that we stick to the path of the rule of law.
So according to you, there's a certain kind of indoctrination that happens.
It's not indoctrination. These guys have been bought.
When does it happen?
Wamenunuliwa wote. William Ruto amewakash. They are commodities in parliament, other than a few of them. Yes. Those are William Ruto looks at them vile unaendanga kwa duka unaona sukari. Hii ni sukari naweza nunua. Hii ni unga ya mahindi naweza nunua. Hii ni maziwa naweza nunua. That's how William Ruto views parliament.
Wakili.
Okay.
Yes.
Wakili, you painted a picture of the elections and the participation of public service officials in it, and what the law says in that. But when you talk about the election laws, that squarely lies under the purview of IEBC. Right? And IEBC, as the referee of elections, should be able to stand and say, Agai, the law says you should not be part and parcel of these elections.
Absolutely.
Based off what the Constitution says. We therefore demand that you desist.
Yes.
And we are equally sending warnings. I'm assuming that's how it would have happened. We're sending warning to the candidates you're supporting. That there will be repercussions of that. But that is not what we see from the electoral body. IEBC. They gave out a statement on the same and called out individuals who are participating in that. But it remained being that. It is just calling them out. If the law was broken, someone ought to be in court right now to answer as to why that law was broken. Maybe I'm the one who's overdoing things.
We in 2022 presidential election between Raila Odinga and William Ruto, we attempted to bring that argument before the Supreme Court. And of course the Supreme Court said that the cabinet secretaries and the PSs serves at the pleasure of the president. So that particular time, instead of the Supreme Court coming up to strengthen the desire that Kenyans wanted or aspired to achieve by creating bars and restraining measures for cabinet secretary to be involved in politics, the Supreme Court opened the floodgates. So today, even if you are to go to court and say, the cabinet secretary Ruko was involved in campaigning for Wamudende, it will still end up with a zero result because the Supreme Court has made a decision that they serve the pleasure of the president. So this, what we're saying is that it's not everything that the court can pronounce on. But again, I would wish to say that really the Supreme Court there failed us. They failed us by not sticking to the stricter provisions of the Constitution. But then we need to ask ourselves, where do we need to be as a nation? You see, IBC must act as a first point of call in making sure they have a resemblance, even if they're not able to give us, they give a resemblance of a free, fair, equitable, secure, verifiable, transparent, and accountable elections. At least that is the bare minimum that is required of them. That is to say, going by the Supreme Court's decision, or what the IBC ought to do is to ensure that these tenets of fairness are applicable. For example, by making sure that if a candidate indicates that if the IBC gives the limits upon which you can spend in your campaigns, that is adhered to. Number two, IBC must know that it's not working for government. It's working for the people of Kenya. And in this country, we have two groups, or three groups. Those who support government, those who don't support government, and those who are completely apolitical. So it must be able to deliver for those two, for the first two groups. Because if you are apolitical, IBC has no business with you. You can remain apolitical. It's your freedom. It's your right. But if you are actively participating in politics, IBC must not be seen to be holding brief for the government of the day. And that is what is worrying us. Because it's not just the question of the involvement of the executive in campaigns. There was violence that was witnessed across the board. And most importantly, the violence that was meted to the people of Malava constituency. One of the principles that Article 89 speaks about the Constitution is free from intimidation. Because an election cannot be fair, it cannot be free, it cannot be accountable, it cannot be transparent, it cannot be verifiable, it cannot be secure if it is meted with violence or intimidation of voters. And intimidation comes in various ways and forms. For example, during the by-election in Mbere North, there were over 40,000 or 50,000 police officers, all of them with batons, others with guns, others with full police gears, others with canisters and launch guns that launch canisters, tankers and tankers of police officers in a small election. In a single polling center. A polling center could perhaps be hosting about 20 police officers.
Right.
An issue that is so alien to the people of Mbere. It was meant to intimidate. It was meant to suppress. So IBC, if they want to win people's confidence, they must make sure that the principles for which they were established are achieved. They must oversee the implementation and the process of achieving those principles. Otherwise, they must understand that they go to office on a very low public confidence and public trust. It is now their work to earn back this trust. But unfortunately, they are failing. The chairperson of the commission has not spoken about the violence.
And would it have been required that such a thing happened, that when there was, because look, even if you would hear it, but even if you didn't see it, you've seen that these are the things that happened, that there was violence.
Yes.
That there were according to the Elections Act, there are certain people who cannot be around a polling station.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially during a by-election, because there are still sitting members in positions at that time, not like a general election whereby we're on ground zero for everybody.
Yeah.
But that a sitting member of parliament has no business being around an election, a polling station. That we shouldn't have the kind of things that we're seeing happen.
We should not have.
When we have heard things like voter bribery, there should have been investigation on the spot about things like this.
Yes.
When there has been violence,
that is right.
That we should have been seen action taken. Regardless of whatever side of the political divide you are on, these things by an electoral body should not have happened.
Yes.
Now, in the event that they did happen and we see no action being taken beyond condemning them and then reporting them to police, what then would you imagine should be the next action point, either for the IEBC or for the people for which this process is being
what happens, and you remember I indicated that the Constitution has created various levels and realms of accountability, is where the system fails us. Be it the state organs, the office of the ODPP, the office of the IG, the office of the commissioners, where the office fails us, where parliament fails us, where IBC fails us, we have the recourse of Article 37 of the Constitution. The streets are the only alternative voice of holding government to account. And I keep on saying that Article 37 that took us to the streets last year and this year is an alternative mechanism of checking on the excesses of government. Because it is the people themselves who are the owners of the Constitution, who are the sovereign speaking through the street. So when the institution fails, the people have a right and the freedom to bypass those institutions.
The institutions will kill
and
you,
get to the streets. But unfortunately, we are dealing with the rogue system. The rogue system fights the streets as a threat to their existence. as opposed to fighting the streets as an alternative means of holding the government to account. In developed democracies, the streets is an institutionalized alternative means of holding government to account. That is why people like Rosa Parks in 1957 was able to stand up against the discrimination of the municipal buses in Alabama. It is as a result of that protest that people boycotted the municipal bus for 1 year, that people like Akina Martin Luther King came there later. People like Akina Muhammad Ali speaking about the discrimination. People like Malcolm X coming out and speaking against it. You know, the streets must be understood as an alternative means legitimately enacted in our constitution to hold government to account. So anybody who is going to the street is equal to the member of parliament who is legislating in Bunge.
Right.
And the reason why he's doing that is because the member of parliament has failed. So where the member of parliament fails to hold government to account, the street becomes an alternative voice. And when you are in the streets, you are legislating.
When you hear the words come out into the streets, many would say, Wakili, that what you're asking for is a situation of violence through protest.
No, it's not violence. It's not violence. It is the people who do not understand the doctrine of the sovereign of the people who thinks that you need to respond to the people on the streets with fire. That is because in the first instance, that person firing ought to be held to account. But the system has failed. Like, for example, let me tell you, already we should be having the office of the ODPP authorizing the office of the IG to investigate on the violence that was met at the people of Malava and the people of Mbeere North. But you can see they have become complacent because the office of the ODPP thinks that's part and parcel of the executive. They fail to understand that Article 157 has created a very serious autonomous office of the ODPP. But they feel intimidated because they know Kasongo will not leave you. If you attempt to say that there ought to be investigations, they are afraid that their jobs will be at risk. So then what are we helpless? No, we're not helpless. In the event the office of the ODPP fails to initiate these investigations and to direct the IG to initiate these investigations, Kenyans have a risk of initiating private prosecution. So those are the options we are exploring. And systems are rolling to ensure that this thing is done.
Wakili, you've just mentioned in terms of the decision that was made by the Supreme Court and what that then means moving forward on public servants being in this campaign trail. Because remember, the highest court in land has given a determination and a guideline and has pronounced itself on the same. So we expect to see more cabinet secretaries on these on these campaigns.
We shall.
But then the question would be, where does IEBC stand when it is giving its regulation? Because remember, at the time during elections, IEBC will give regulation which then becomes law and which will guide the election at that time. And as well as you talk of going to the streets, it is a right in the constitution, right? But Kenyans today, no one wants to go to the street because, again, the police that we're talking about, that is supposed to protect the very right, that is supposed to even guide them during this protest. Kenyans are afraid these people will kill us. How do Kenyans fight for that, not surrender, and appear on the street as an alternative voice, but at the back of their mind, cops will show up and they will deal with us?
We have a situation that is coming up in 2027. There's a situation that will emerge where neither the bullets, no water cannons, no police brutality, no tear gas will stop that process from taking place. The place of the people to determine the manner in which they want to be governed and who ought to govern them. They have that rare opportunity of redeeming themselves in 2027. But the unfortunate thing is that this process will not begin in 2027. It begins now. With the IBC laying down, first of all, the ability to win the people's confidence that they can be able to oversee an election that is credible, an election that will result in speaking the will of the people. That is one thing the IBC must do. And if the chairman of the IBC does not understand that he's suffering from trust deficit from Kenyans, then we are at a loss. Number two, we are calling upon our other partners, the international partners. They must stand put and make sure that this country is delivered. The country from bad governance.
Wakili, do you really believe that the international community is interested in seeing Kenya
yes, they are.
in a stable political environment that doesn't benefit them in any way?
Of course, that field again is divided because of the question of the geopolitics and the geoeconomics taking place. It's divided. But there are some of them who really believe that democracies ought to be allowed to thrive and to grow, because the growth of the democracy will culminate or trigger the economic growth and the social growth and the social stability of a country. Number two, why I'm saying that they must watch is because we live in a community of nations. We don't live in isolation. What happens in Kenya affects what happens in Uganda, Tanzania, and again our neighbors and the global, the entire global nation. Like you can see what is happening in Tanzania. If the international community will be able to push the Tanzania issue to its logical conclusion, it will act as a deterrent for William Ruto. Do you understand what I mean? If ICC investigates the atrocities that were committed and caused by Suluhu Hassan in Tanzania, and if she ends up in The Hague, it will act as a deterrent for her neighbors.
He's been to The Hague.
Yeah.
He's been to the ICC.
Well, I know we do not understand that he could be hardened.
And I think he's actually made reference to this before.
Yes.
That, look, we've been to the ICC at our ameona mi sina makosa, and I came back and I am president.
Si ati hakuwa na makosa.
So,
mpaka saizi faili ya William Ruto ya ICC bado iko. Haijaifungwa. Remember, witnesses disappeared. Don't forget that Yebei was found somewhere in the Savo and others. Yeah? Don't forget about that fact. The fact is that William Ruto's case is still pending at the ICC. But we are saying the international community should make sure that actions are taken in Tanzania so as to act as a deterrent measure in Kenya. Otherwise, if we allow the situation to exist as it is, and if IBC continue to exhibit a conduct that they are in bed with the government, they are quoting a situation that may arise and may go out of control. Because I do not see Kenyans agreeing to the swearing in of a president who has rigged an election. It is their constitutional right to resist the swearing in of a president whose election is questionable and whose election does not square out in accordance with the Constitution. For one reason, Dennis, Article 3 of the Constitution provides that every Kenyan has the obligation and the responsibility to respect, uphold, and protect the Constitution from being abrogated. A president who has come in through dubious means of rigging an election is not a president who is protected by the Constitution, because his election does not square out with the principles contemplated by the Constitution. And therefore, the people of Kenya, they have the power to resist the swearing in of such a president under Article 3 and Article 1 of the Constitution when they exercise their power in protection of the Constitution.
Okay, I asked you the question about the Supreme Court ruling,
yes.
right? And what that means going 2027. We're likely to see more civil servants appearing on campaign trails. And how does that dent IEBC's position and its tough work in winning Kenyan souls and believe and trust that they can deliver? So look at the Supreme Court decision.
Yes.
Look at how much work IEBC has to work already in terms of winning Kenyans, for Kenyans to trust that they can deliver.
Yes. My view on that is that is a situation where IEBC must invite itself into a self-introspection process, where they must come up with rules that guarantees the process of a free and fair elections. IBC is mandated to issue regulations on how elections should be conducted. The reason why the Supreme Court indicated as it did is because the IBC has negated on its responsibility of regulating who should participate in an election and who should not participate in an election. So if regulations today, and even Parliament itself, Parliament should legislate clearly and say that if you're a member of Parliament, or if you are, a cabinet secretary or affiliate or a member of the executive, you cannot actively participate in the elections. And if you do, these are the consequences. So part of these things that we are experiencing is because of the inability to, the lacuna in law. If we had a clear provisions and express provisions of the law, those things would not be taking place. They would be clear. Yeah,
I see. We can see all of this from what the law provides, right? Very, very clear. Because we talk about the language used by the Constitution and all of that. Yes. But if you actually read it, right, and read it for yourself, and actually take a little bit of time to study it, then you will find that actually some of the things that it says then become very clear to you as an individual in terms of what you can do as a Kenyan operating within this Kenyan space.
Yes.
So, I mean, I guess this is a call for people to actually read it and see what it says.
Yes.
Because could that actually then fuel your action in the future? Because with reading then comes comprehension.
Yes.
And if you then comprehend what this thing says, it also then gives you insight into further or future action.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I guess that would, I'm already answering the question, is that one of the reasons why we don't see action in a particular direction is because there is not an understanding. And this is not a disrespect of the Kenyan people in the majority. It is not disrespect. It is to say that we don't act because we do not know what you can actually do.
Absolutely.
Many people are not concerned with whether a cabinet secretary is standing atop of a vehicle.
Yes.
Whether that was breaking the law or not.
And by the way,
nobody knows this, so nobody bothers.
We must keep on preaching against the evils and the vices in our governance system. Whether William Ruto is there or William Ruto is not there, it must be a consistent reminder to the people of Kenya that a country, an individual will come and an individual will go. But the rule of law and constitutionalism will survive individuals. So we must press on making sure that the rule of law and the constitutionalism guides this country much more than the benevolence of an individual. Because individuals keep on changing, regimes keeps on changing. Today we have a benevolent person, tomorrow we have a hooligan in power. So we must anchor our future and our faith in law as opposed to individuals. Number two, we must keep on reminding Kenyans what is good for them and what is bad for them. What is good for them is a president who is a stickler to the law. A president who says that the Constitution is my first manifesto. The rule of law is my second manifesto. All other things will accrue from the Constitution and the rule of law. Because even when you want to say that you want to build roads or you want to make Kenya a Singapore, the imagination of Kenya as being a Singapore, it must be premised on the law. Because that process will involve about issues of procurement, employment. All these are regulated by the law. So the first point of call for any person who wants to change this country, it must be the Constitution and the rule of law. And that's what I've said. Any person who aspires to be a president and tells me that the Constitution will be my first manifesto, I will support that person. And Kenyans must understand that their problems will be solved not by the benevolence of an individual, but by the strict adherence to the rule of law. That's how nations have been able to rise up. That's how Singapore was able to rise up. Singapore did not rise up because of the benevolence, the stories, nyingi za jaba za mtu. It's not that what made Singapore rise up. Singapore has not risen by faith. It has risen by actions. So deliberate actions must be taken towards taking that particular path. Yes, the other day I was in Mombasa. And I used the SGR. And of course deliberately. And we got to which station is it? The last station is called
Mariakani.
Yes. Yeah. And when we were in transit, the hostess, the train attendants would keep on reminding us, na mukumbuke tukifika Mombasa kuna commuter train inatoa watu kutoka kwa terminus to Mombasa town.
Yes.
About a kilometer again, na mukumbuke hiyo train itawalipisha 50 shillings. So by the time you are getting to Mombasa, you already know that you have an alternative means of the commuter train to get you to the city.
How much it costs.
And you already know how much it costs. And granted the circumstances of the economy, we were all very enthusiastic to hike that train. But let me tell you, that train, that commuter train, cost Kenyan 6 billion to repair it. It is the old lunatic train that was retired, that was refurbished, painted, and put back on rail. It is a death trap. And I was like, how the hell do you tell me that this is a commuter train that's supposed to change to be part and parcel of changing this country to a Singapore?
And you got on the train. You did.
I did. I was on that train. It's a very unsafe thing to use. It's a death trap. But look at the amount of the money it has cost. 6 billion to refurbish a lunatic train. And then you tell me that you have the desire, the will, and the wherewithals to get this country to the Singapore? It is a pipe dream. We cannot get to Singapore if we're not controlling corruption. We cannot get to Singapore if we're not controlling wastages. We cannot get to Singapore if we do not have discipline in government. We cannot get to Singapore if the civil society, if the public service is not a motivated public service. Because public service is a vehicle that delivers the government's agenda. Look at how demotivated they are today. And that is why Kasong will have a problem in 2027. He will not apply them in the campaigns because they themselves are also fighting to liberate themselves from taxation and bad governance. Remember, they also live in this country. So he will not have the advantage of that system, the civil service system, to think that he's going to utilize them for his own benefit, because they are also people who are fighting to liberate themselves.
Wakili, we talk about a constitution that is the blueprint of this country, right? That if everyone living in this country decided to read, understand, uphold, and implement that constitution, we do not need any other assistance, because where we're headed is properly guided by the law.
Absolutely.
That all that is needed, correct me if I'm wrong, is political goodwill that will then give credence to those who are in National Assembly in terms of putting in place policies or giving powers that would help implement this constitution. Because you've clearly said that even when it comes to electoral laws, it's because there is a lacuna that needs the power of Parliament to pass these policies that will then guide how the implementation of the same is. That means if we have a proper political goodwill, this constitution that we have is the proper blueprint that will guide us towards Singapore.
I would tell Kenyans, let us not lose faith in our constitution. All what we do not have is a good person to implement it. William Ruto cannot be a solution to implement this constitution because he does not believe in it. He swore to uphold and defend a document that he himself has never read. If he had ever read the constitution, he would know that it is not proper for a president to order people to be shot in their legs. If he had ever read the constitution, he would understand that one of the principles of governance and one of the expectations of a president under Article 131 of the constitution is public trust. To the extent that he has become a perpetual pathological liar, then it does not conform to the dictates of the Constitution and Chapter 6 of the Constitution vis-a-vis Article 75 that says you must initiate and enhance public confidence in your office.
And for the purposes of this conversation, we are describing or defining a lie as what?
We are describing a lie, yani uongo. Kwa njia ya Kiswahili na Kiswahili sanifu. Yani yule mtu ambaye haezi kusema maneno ambayo yanaweza kuaminika, huo ni muongo. Kwa mfano, unapokuja kusema kwamba mtungi ya gesi itakuwa inatoka shilingi 500, alafu hiyo sasa inatoka shilingi 1000, wewe ni muongo. Kwa mfano, unaposema ya kwamba umeajiri watoto wengi sana kupitia affordable housing, na affordable housing imebadilisha uchumi wetu wa Kenya na watu bado wanalia, huo ni muongo. Unaposema kwamba umeweka maneno kama inaitwa nini? Hustlers funds. Na hiyo ile Hustlers fund ni njia yako moja ya kuiba na kuangamiza uchumi wetu wa nchi ya Kenya, wewe ni mwongo na wewe ni mwizi. Wewe ni mwongo na ni mwizi. Endapo unakuwa unahudhuria ama unashuhudia wizi katika nchi ya Kenya na unahusika katika huo wizi, wewe ni mwongo. Nimeona leo katika taarifa ikisemekana kwamba William Ruto amesema ya kwamba yeye kazi yake anataka kujenga uchumi, kujenga nchi, hajishughulishi na maneno ya utajiri, hapa na utajiri mwingi wa kutosha. Umeona hiyo kwa leo? Angesema nimeiba ya kutosha, nimetosheka. Nimeiba ya kutosha, sasa hakuna kitu kingine ya kuiba. It is not that William Ruto has enough wealth that he no longer needs it. It's because the country has been milked dry. The country is bankrupt. Have I defined a lawyer and a thief?
I got it.
Yes.
So with all of these things taken into consideration and the position in which Kenyans find themselves today, I'm just coming back to that point where you said, it seems as though you've tried, you've budged, not budged here.
Yes.
People have had conversations, and though we keep having the conversations, what you're saying is that when we look at revolutions that happened in the past, there had to be a shifting of the status quo, not even a shifting, a complete overturning of the status quo for a new order to come in place.
Yes.
I hear you advocating for that.
Yes, I am advocating for a new order that is constitutional and not extra constitutional. And a new order is realizable by the persons that you put into power. That's what we are saying. We must remove this regime and put a regime that will be premised on the rule of law and constitutionalism. And that is what we in the United Opposition, we are promising Kenyans. That our first point of call, our first manifesto will be the Constitution. Our second manifesto will be the rule of law. Our third manifesto then is what we are now going to say, what the law is going to help us do, what the Constitution is going to help us do. I just saw today in the morning, and I received 411, that CBK data shows 6.3% growth in 9 months of our public debt. That is to say, our public debt for the last 1 month has grown with 6.3%. 6 months. Kibaki, for 10 years, I think he took a loan of about 1.5 trillion. Uhuru took a loan of about, in 10 years, took a loan of about 6 trillion. William Ruto, in 3 years, has taken a loan of over 6 trillion. And when you try to see with the application of this money, it's nowhere.
It's difficult.
The other day he went and launched the road to Riloni, Mau
Summit, yes.
I had the advantage of using that road on Friday, on my way to Kitale. I did not see a single excavator. I only saw 4 of them hapa Kikuyu, zikicheza na mchanga hapo tu. Today, there's basically no execution. So this person is taking us for granted, Dennis, and thinking that we are so daft, we are not able to see. So William Ruto, Kenyans must gather themselves to get rid of William Ruto, because William Ruto is a disaster for this country, is a curse to the nation, is a tragedy to our generation.
Those are heavy things you're saying.
Is a tragedy to ourselves, and we must liberate ourselves from Mr. William Ruto.
Even as we wrap up, those are heavy things that you're saying.
Yes, and I am allowed to say them. I am expressing myself. And you know why I'm calling upon Kenyans to rise up to the occasion? Is because we cannot afford to fail ourselves and fail the future generation. At least one of us, Dennis, must succeed. We either succeed our generation, and also help the future generation to succeed by laying down the necessary infrastructures. And Kenyans must overcome their fears. Their fear should be only the fear itself. Let us not cling on fear as a source of our inability to be active in the manner in which we want to be governed.
Indeed.
Let's not allow fear to hold us captive. Let us not allow fear to enslave us. We must overcome fear if you want to have a government that is responsive. Good government, a good governance system, an accountable system, a transparent system, a system that is premised on the rule of law, a system that is responsive to the plight of the people, the Bill of Rights that must be respected, not a system that when you go to the streets, you are abducted. When you go to the streets, you are extrajudicially killed. You are locked. In Communicado, we must act towards making sure that the provisions of Article 10 are met. Transparency, accountability, the people's participation, the democracy of the people, the human right, the Bill of Rights, the rule of law. Inclusivity of the people, the distribution of resources in an equitable and equal manner. We must liberate ourselves. Fear must not be our destiny.
And on those words, we end this conversation this morning.
Imeisha sasa sangapi? We have not even touched what the paper says, like Safaricom. You see, how would Kenyans allow Safaricom to be sold? How?
I hear what
and by the way, as I sum up, the people who went to negotiate on behalf of government are not even government employees in the sale of Safaricom. They are not government employees. They are not known in our laws. Because our laws prescribes the persons who should engage directly with the government. The office of the Attorney General should be the person to lead in such kind of negotiations. And the people must be told. So we are asking the office of the Attorney General and the office of the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, let them lay bare the persons who went to negotiate on behalf of government for the sale of 15% stake in Safaricom.
And then there will be an understanding.
And then Kenyans must understand that the only cow that is producing and yielding milk, that is Safaricom and Kenya Pipeline Corporation, they have been sold. Which farmer sells his best yielding cow? Ni mkulima mgani anauza yule ng'ombe wake mzuri anatoa maziwa? Huo lazima wawe ni mkulima mjinga na mkulima mshenzi.
Conversation for another day.
For sure. Wakili Njeri, thank you for being here with us this morning. Lay bare some insights on some of these things. Way past the hour, but thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Of course, for us to continue having this conversation.
By the way, we can't end without me saying Merry Christmas.
Oh, indeed.
And Happy New Year to our listeners. It has been a good and engaging year. We cannot be grateful enough to this station for the works that you are doing.
Asante sana.
You are part of the voice of change. You are doing what you can in your space. Continue doing the good job. We will meet in 2027 when we shall be celebrating the liberation of the country.
Asante sana. At 9:05. Good morning.
Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The government has been dealt a blow after the High Court issued an order to suspend the implementation of the Kenya-US Health Cooperation Agreement signed on December 4th, 2025. Judge Bahati Mwamuye issued the temporary order following a case filed in court by the Consumers Federation of Kenya. The order prevents the government from implementing the agreement worth $2.5 billion, equivalent to 208 billion Kenya shillings, and from providing any health sector data to the national government. Now, it should be noted that a similar case has been filed in court by Busia Senator Okoh Mtata, challenging the agreement that would have enabled the United States to invest directly in health institutions in the country for a period of 5 years, stressing that it was done without public participation and without the consent of Parliament, which is unconstitutional. The court's action comes just a day after President William Ruto defended the deal, denying claims that it violates Kenya's Data Privacy Act.
The United States is supporting Kenya with $1.6 billion, which is just over 200 billion shillings over the next 5 years in the health sector, a sector they have been supporting for a long time. In fact, the numbers show that the United States has spent $7 billion in Kenya on matters health over time. Let me also say that this facility is not alone. I have seen some comments whether we are contracting more debt.
However, the agreement has continued to witness criticism, with the DCP leader Rigathi Gachagua, the latest leader to raise his voice.
We cannot give our medical records to the Americans for their own research and analysis using our records. And I think it is very inappropriate for the president to brag that he has signed an agreement with the Americans to get some money, so that we give away our medical records. And I'm happy that Okia Mtata has already gone to court, and I wish him well, because this must be stopped. These are things that we cannot allow, that a president and a government can auction our dignity as a people. You need privacy to your records, your medical records. It cannot be given to foreigners.
The United Opposition Coalition now claims it has gathered sufficient evidence to prove the Malava and Mbeere North parliamentary by-elections were rigged. DAPK leader Eugene Wamalwa told a local TV station last night that President William Ruto influenced the outcomes. He says the coalition will present its evidence in court to seek the annulment of the results.
Kule Malava, baada ya Mlima kumkataa, we're talking of 10 counties za Mlima. The only other place anaweza pata block kubwa hivyo kureplace ni 10 counties za Western. So uchaguzi wa Malava was a do or die for him. Sababu kule ametemwa Mlima, ukiconfirm ametemwa, Mlima wote umeenda. Sababu ya Mbeere. Kule Western amekimbilia, na huko tu is his only pathway back to a second term of his presidency. Angepoteza Malava, Western yote ingeenda na hangekubali. So alitumia nguvu nyingi sana, akatumia pesa nyingi sana kuhakikisha kuonyesha Wakenya ya kwamba hajapoteza Mlima na ya kwamba Western atashinda. So that is why. So hizi zingine they were not battlegrounds. Sababu kwa siasa wanasema the strongholds alafu their battlegrounds. Sasa Mlima na Western are the main battlegrounds.
Ilikuwa lazima ashinde.
Ilikuwa yani do or die. Watu wakufe juu chini, na alitumia kila, na tutaonyesha kotini.
And a 2.5-year-old boy has died after falling from the 3rd floor of an apartment block in Ongatarongai, Kajiado County. Police say he was playing on the balcony when a metal grill gave way. He was rushed to hospital but died from his injuries. In Nairobi, a 20-year-old carpenter, Enos Odhiambo, died after falling from the 12th floor of a construction site along Juja Road. He reportedly slipped through a void and landed on the 2nd floor. He was pronounced dead on arrival at a nearby hospital. Police say both bodies have been taken to mortuaries as investigations continue amid renewed calls for improved safety at construction sites. And that's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, and I love your show.
Thank you.
Having come from Bakikuyu Radio.
If we just gloss over issues and hope that time heals, then we might find that in generations to come, we might be back at the same situation. And the whole thing is born of stolen elections.
Spice.
When it comes to the decisions you make, you must be independent. There's no way you can allow one institution to dictate to you how you're going to conduct your operations, how you're going to decide cases. It's a no.
When you weaken the institution to the point where they cannot take action, then you realize that politicians have to come up and now start dealing with the issues.
That conversation has to die. Our politicians do not like the hard stuff. We must insist on the path of doing things right, whether popular or unpopular.
Money changes hands. That is a fact. If you have political goodwill at the highest top, like in Rwanda, then corruption will be an issue of the past. If you don't have political goodwill at the top, we will pass laws, we will amend laws, we will continue passing laws and re-amending laws, and nothing will happen.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, "Stagi kuongea today." Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 12 minutes after 9 o'clock, and it's the final conversation on the Situation Room this morning. Getting into it, where it's been an interesting morning from human rights to politics. Now we're looking into education, but you're still telling me what I can do with the shillings in my pocket.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
When you have 19 shillings,
okay,
we talk about 1 hour unlimited data, fun data bundles from Airtel. We talk about 45 shillings, that is 3 hours of the same unlimited fun data bundles that Airtel is telling you by dialing *544# or going to your My Airtel app that you can download from App Store or Google Play. You are able to stay connected. Alternatively, if you still believe in getting the Airtel SIM card so that you get to be on phone, you get to be on data, you get to SMS, you just walk into the nearest Airtel shop and you get yourself the Airtel SIM card. Now, why are we talking about these unlimited data bundles? It's simply because imagine a situation where now we're getting into an education conversation. Results are being released and you want to see how your child has performed, but you want to beat everyone else because a system might crash simply because there is too much traffic. And because you want to be there, be able to celebrate with your child, because you do not have data na katika midway, and all you're saying, you usually call it missed call. That thing is just buffering. It's not going anywhere because you do not have data. Airtel is telling you, if you purchase our data bundles, this process will be smooth and you'll enjoy that. So get yourself on that. Remember, we're giving away 3,000 shillings if you give us that moment of FOMO. What is this situation experience you've had? And you send that to us. We pick it up and we will give you 3,000 shillings worth of airtime, courtesy of Airtel. Go texting. We'll get in touch with you.
Fantastic. Flavier's of course on that this morning, but let's not end this segment without a note of optimism. That's one that you've given us. Let's do another one, because at its core, Joyline is in the business of human growth and the joy of a better life. They want to romance the benefits of planning for the future in an upbeat, memorable way. This isn't about fear. It's about the great life you can build when you're prepared. They help discerning individuals create wealth and protect themselves through innovative services. So whether it's a wealth generation, protecting assets, or retirement security, Joyline is a brand for you. If you're planning for the future with insurance, if you're not planning for the future with insurance and investments, then it's high time you did. So what's your plan? Get started on that better life at icealine.co.ke. Apando tuko leo asubuhi. Now we're having a conversation because in T-minus an hour or so or two, the KJSEA results will be released by the Ministry of Education jointly with NEC this morning. And so we're having a conversation about that rollout, what to expect. Lewis Nyaundi is an education reporter with the Standard Group, and for the first time in the Situation Room. Good morning, Lewis.
Good morning to you.
How you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah, so today's a big day.
It is a big day.
Yeah, as you said, at around midday, 1 p.m., we expect the results of the examination that was done between 27th and 3rd of November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ngoja kwanza. Just because you work here doesn't mean that you're not going to have to interpret the proverb. No. So nice try. I see what you did, but it's not going to happen. Dennis is going to share today's proverb with you, and we'd love to get you to interpret it.
We call Situation Room the classroom.
Today it's the classroom.
We start with you interpreting the proverb.
Okay.
When you hear Congo, what do you think of?
Congo. Two things. The country, and also, you know, those big locks, they joined... The locks that so many of them join to have a big lock.
Yeah.
They're called Congos.
Trust the dreadlocked man. You always look for another. Yeah. Okay.
Let's go to the proverb. Eh?
Okay.
When you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes but monkey stays. When you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes but the monkey stays. How would you interpret that? What do you think the Congolese are saying here?
Say that again.
When you marry a monkey for its wealth, the money goes but the monkey stays. Don't overthink. Mwalimu.
When you marry the monkey for its wealth, the money goes,
the monkey stays.
The monkey stays. I think what they mean is wealth can be status, not just the monetary view of it. So when you marry the monkey, the money can go, but wealth will still be there. There could be some form of wealth. Yeah. So I think the monkey stays because it's not just the money that kept it there. There's a whole range of wealth.
Other things.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my
monkey. It's okay.
You're breathing very hard. Okay, we let you off the hook at least.
Remember, your interpretation is never wrong. It
Absolutely.
is interpretation, yeah.
Your interpretation is yours.
Okay.
But one thing that is very clear is that at about lunchtime today, the results of the Kenya Junior assessment will come out. It's going to be a joint announcement by the Ministry of Education and the Kenya National Examinations Council. It's a big one because it's the first time that we're seeing one like this. And it's also the first time that we're not seeing a number rating over 500 for these.
Yeah.
Usually by this time, somebody's looking for 400 and something. What's going to happen? But it's very different this year.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
So, as you said, the ranking has been eliminated, and also the mean scores have been eliminated. So, we don't expect School A going out and saying that we had a mean score of 428 out of 500 marks, which is a big change. A new ranking system has been adopted, which will now compile students' subject performance, and those subject performance will be rated out of 100%, but each there's some ranks that have been given that are going to give points. So, for example, a student who has between 90 and 100% in a certain subject will get 88 points. And then another student who gets between 75 and 89%, they'll get 7 points. These are points that have been graduated based on the percentage that you performed on your individual subjects.
Okay.
Yeah. So this.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Just take me back just a little bit. So we are saying we have removed the ranking.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen anymore.
No more.
With these results. So if you score between what and what? 70 and
90.
If you get
between 90 and 100.
If you get 90 to 100, what do I get? 8 points.
8 points.
All right.
Yeah.
So now if I'm getting between 80 to 90, I'm getting how many points?
Between 75 and 89.
Between 70. So what happens to the person who gets between 89 and doesn't get 90? Okay, it doesn't make sense. Anyway, 75 to 90, then I get how many points?
You get 7 points.
7 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then the third level, you get between 58 and 74%.
Yes, 58 to 74%.
Say you've done your Kiswahili and you have 74% out of 100. You get 6 points.
I get 6 points.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you and the person who got 54, your 58 are on the same category.
So whether I got 74% or I got 58%, all of us are getting 6 points.
Now you get it.
All right.
Yeah.
So below that, is there for 5 points?
Yeah, there's 5 points where you get 41 to 57%.
41 to 57%, I'm getting 5 points.
5 points.
Okay.
Yeah. And then 3 points you get, 4 points you get between 31 and 40%.
31 to 40% gives us 3 points.
21 to 30, 3 points.
Also 3 points.
Yeah. That was 4 points between 31 and 40.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
Okay, so 21 to 30 is 3 points.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, and then the last two is between 11 and 20, where you get 2 points, and 1 and 10, you get 1 point.
1 point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
how many points? Sorry, Dennis. How many points do we want to get in order to move transition?
Yes. Now, look at it at this from this perspective. You do 9 subjects, and the maximum you can get per subject is 8 points. So the total points a student can get is 72 points.
Right.
So the highest ranked student will be 72 points. But
if we were ranking.
Yes.
Okay.
But remember, this student, if he gets 72 points, they might have different marks within that 72 points.
Yeah, because it's ranging.
Yeah, because a student who got 90 and they got 90, 90, 90 from the first subject to the last subject, let's say that is like 810 marks. And the student who got 99, 99, 99 or 100, 100 from the first to the last
is still getting that 800.
Yeah. So whether you have those 810 marks or 900 marks total, you still get the same points.
Okay.
You get it.
So what you're trying to do then is to remove this almost, first of all, remove the ranking for sure.
Yeah.
But then remove this competitive thing whereby we're saying if you don't get a 415 and above, then we don't put you in this particular school.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay.
But there's a catch to it as well.
Okay.
Because this examination, these results we're getting today, the 72 points that the student is gaining today, is just 60% of the total mark that they're getting. So there's another 40%. Where do we get the 40%? The 40% comes from, you see, when these students were in grade 6, they did a test.
The assessment,
Yes.
Yeah.
This one
they
that
did
the grade 6 is also yes.
You see, at that point, they said this exam is useless. There's nothing that it contributes to your academic success. But now, this is where it comes to be useful because it will contribute 20%. What you got in your KPSEA is 20% of your final score, KJSEA. So we have 80%, 60 from today's results. 20% from what you did 2 years before in KPSEA. Then another 20% will be from the school-based assessments, what the teacher has been giving you as your practicals,
what
your
used to be
homeworks.
CATs.
Yes, your homeworks, the CATs.
Those projects where
All
they
those.
say go and build a volcano and using locally available
I
materials.
think you understand this.
My dear? Okay.
So with all this information, one would ask then, this is what will determine the pathway that one goes to based off going, because at the back end, I mean, NEC, the invigilators, everyone is able to go to the back end and see your performance and see where you're best suited to be in.
Yeah.
But how does that then, how would you read that with the fact that already students chose their pathways?
Now, this is interesting because your performance in today's results, combined with the 40% that you're talking about, will give you a score, a cumulative score. That cumulative score, NEC, the National Examination Council, will sit down and assess it. And then based on how you've been doing your projects and whatever, they'll give a recommendation. This student, from how we see it, is best placed to be an athlete, because he's performing really well in physical education, or he's best placed to be in STEM. He could be an engineer, he could be a doctor, he could be an IT guy. And then they'll give that recommendation to the Ministry of Education. And then that recommendation, the Ministry of Education will take that recommendation and look at what you chose to study. if they're in line, then they'll place you there.
That means this takes away what we used to see in terms of, because back in the days is you'd get 80%, assuming now we're working with 80%, right?
Yeah.
So if you get the 80%, it was clearly demarcated that you're going to a national school, because that was the highest level in terms of education there is. But here we look at, in these 80% that you're looking at, they further go back to look at, in these 80%, where are your strengths in?
Yeah.
And that then would guide the recommendation that would be given, upon which now that is what a parent would see and say, if we look at what you decided and what we have seen, our recommendation is this, or we maintain that which the student had chosen.
Very correct. Very, very correct.
Sorry. This, so I'll start with a statement, then I'll go to the question so that you can help me understand.
Sure.
These selections for pathways were made by the current, now the incoming grade 10s in term 2 of grade 9.
Yes.
They made those selections when we came back from the holiday.
Right.
And we were all making noise. We said, you know what, are they too young to make the selection because they might change later? But is it cast in stone? Ministry said, oh yes, if you choose, then we'll see what we can do later. But if you choose, essentially, we're good.
Yeah.
At that time, this, what you're saying now, hadn't really come clear. That maybe ministry together with NEC would then look at your results and then see where you're best placed. So does that mean that right now, here's the question, does that mean that right now, that 1.1 million going into grade 10 actually do not know what pathway they will be going into, number one, and number two, they essentially also then do not know if the schools, because they still have to choose schools, if the schools that they have chosen are the ones that they will be going to in 3 weeks?
Let me start with the first question. The students had their preferred pathways.
Yes.
But as you said, that might not be the same pathway that they'll go, because I might have an interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, but my score shows that I'm best placed to be a social sciences student. Yeah. So it will be easy for me to be placed in us, because you don't just choose one pathway. You choose your first pathway and a second pathway. So probably they'll look at you and say, okay, because he chose the social pathway, social science pathway, then let's place him to his second choice. Then from that pathway, now they look at a school that offers the pathway. They go back and look at the schools that you chose. And then they look at this school A is a sports science school. And then school B is a social sciences. Then let's place him in school B.
Because we're still saying that in order to go into a pathway, that you have to at least be versed or good. I'm going to use good very loosely in the subject matter. For example, we can't have you scoring 4 points in science, mathematics, biology, chemistry, if you want to go into STEM. That's what we're saying. We can't have you scoring 4 points in literature, history, if you want to go into the social sciences. So that you could say, actually, you know what, I want to go into the social sciences, but I'm scoring poorly here, but I'm scoring highly in math or physics. Then somebody will say, okay, you know what, based on your scores here, we can't have you going to this pathway. We want you to go to this one. Can you still decide, okay, thank you very much, NEC, for your recommendation. However, I would still like to go to the one that I selected. Can you do that?
Yeah, you see, they still have a choice, because they can actually go further and change their pathway. There is a grace period. I just don't have the exact period that is. But after you've joined your pathway, then you can go further and adjust. Once maybe you choose STEM and you qualify to take that STEM, but 2 days or 1 month after you've joined, you feel like science is giving me a lot of trouble. And then you're free to go back and change and say, okay, maybe let me try social sciences and try maybe geography, history, and simplified mathematics, and see whether that will work for me.
But Lewis, So there is the wiggle room that is allowed out of the student as join.
Sure.
I mean, it happens even in campuses, you know. You can always...
First year,
you can get in and...
Actually, that's right. This system borrows so much from what happens
at universities.
But now, I'm looking at a situation where, because we also know for a fact that majority of the pathways that were selected by many was STEM, you know, sciences and all that. So let's look at a situation where these students have gone to these schools, you know, and they're now in, the wiggle room has happened and they want to move. And perhaps the school they're in does not offer the alternative that they now want to choose. How easy is it to now transition to these other schools? Because remember, there is also the uniform aspect that you have to deal with, and there is also the parent that you have to deal with. Are we looking at a situation of students who, despite them wanting to wiggle themselves and go the other way, it will be difficult based off the things we've talked about? It sounds basic, but that's the reality. Has the ministry or NEC thought about how to deal with such cases?
First, social sciences is the most chosen pathway. The ministry wanted STEM to be the majority, most of the students to proceed to STEM. They wanted at least 60% of the students to proceed to STEM. But from the selection that was done in second term, a lot of the students went to the social sciences pathway. That was the first thing. But now, talking about the change, that's a difficult one because first, all schools, there's no school that will offer just one pathway. All schools will offer at least two pathways.
They have to, isn't it? Okay.
So all schools will offer the STEM pathway. Then social sciences will be the next majority pathway to be offered in most schools. So unless a student now chooses maybe sports science and they were placed in social sciences, then that's where the big disparity is going to come about. But you're right, that's a big challenge because even if it's switching from social sciences to STEM, look at this. This student has been in school for about 2 months. They've been covering some curriculum and syllabus over that period. So when they switch to go back and start their STEM pathway, what happens to the 2 months?
And what happens to a parent who I've received these results and I wanted my child to go to STEM, and I still insist that they want to go to STEM? You know, on old days, you're told repeat and do the exam so that you pass. You know? So is that also present, that we'd see students having to repeat because they or them themselves want to go to STEM and feel like I have not performed to that level upon which I can go to STEM, so I choose to remain behind to perform and go to this pathway that I insist on going? And how does that then affect KIPSEA that was done 2 years ago? Because then at the time when you are sitting this exam, there are those whose 2 years results you'd not appear in that. How do you balance that?
From what I know is that repetition is outlawed in this system. That's what I know. Maybe if you're rich enough, you can take your child to a private school. That one, I think there is so much flexibility on where and how you can approach the joining of any pathway. But when I look at it from the public school setup, then I think that will be a challenge. You can ask for a transfer to another school. You can seek a transfer from school A to school B. Maybe you can go and talk to the principal. But now, seeking a transfer, you have to go back to your junior school. You see the school that you've left, that's where you apply for a transfer from the school that you've been sent
to another school.
To another school.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very You see, I don't know. Have you read the headline? It's
Yes.
a fishing expedition.
Yeah. So we're not even sure. We're not even sure what it's going to look like.
We don't know.
That we're going into 2026, and that because everybody goes back to school on the 5th, 6th of January, except for grade 10s now who come to school a week later as all of this thing is being settled, right? So what we are saying, number one, oh God in heaven, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know how the processes will be. We don't even know if we will have literature for these pathways that are starting. The approved literature, we've already started hearing from KICD that there is fake literature out there that some parents have already started to purchase, because the authorized approved literature from KICD has actually not been put out into, and this is
market.
December. Come on, we're at crunch time here. It's not out. It's not in the market. People are going for school shopping supposedly for next year, and the approved literature for grade 10. Should I complete or
just complete?
Is not out.
Yeah.
These are the realities of what we are working with. They told us that by the end of October, we would start to see some of these things. We've seen nada, for lack of a better, more academic word, that has come out in terms of what are they going to use to teach these children?
That's a tough one. And I think that's best suited for KICD to explain. But if I was to answer that, I think the material will be there by the time they join. I think the Ministry of and KICD will have made some provision for the textbooks. I don't know. Yes.
You see these learners that are going to grade 10?
Yeah.
These are the same learners who were in grade 7 when books came out. You know this because you're an education journalist.
Yeah.
These are the same learners the books came out in second term of grade 7. So for all intents and purposes, whatever was learned in the first 4 months of the lower of the junior school that we're saying go back to that same junior school was nothing. Diddly squat, because there was no literature, and we're told, okay, we're getting to it. We can't be getting to it in December. There are 2 weeks left in December. By the way, if anybody was asking, there are 2 weeks left in December, and they're starting in the first week of January.
Yeah.
So it is a fishing expedition.
Yeah.
Because we're not even sure how this is actually going to happen. We will hear Julius Ogamba today tell us how this is. What are those words that they use? Landmark, first time ever. We'll hear all those things today.
Game changer.
Game changer, Odogu Lion. But is it really? I mean, I applaud new things, but do we see a situation whereby we'll get into this thing? We don't expect everything to move smoothly because obviously you're changing and you're bringing in something new. But at the very minimum, what should we have?
First, books are... It's beyond negotiation to have books that are going to be the primary source of teaching and learning in schools. That's a no-brainer. They have to be there. The second thing are teachers. We have to have teachers. But as you said, you remember this grade 9 who are now moving to grade 10 are the first ever group of
anything.
Yeah. So they've gone through it all. Grade 6, it was still a fishing expedition. We did not know what Cape Sear was about. Remember, there was a lot of noise when Cape Sear was released at night. You remember?
Yes.
The results were released at night, and it was a whole circus. The joint junior school has its own fair share of trouble, and they've made it to grade 9. We have to wait and see what will happen in the next 3 weeks.
Okay.
But as you said, books have to be there.
Okay.
And maybe that's one of the major stories we'll be following up in the next 1 month, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Publishers have been here before, and they've talked to you guys, the challenges. They've not received their pay for even the previous books that they've published. Yeah.
Good.
So there's a major challenge when it comes to books, but
I know you're not the best person to respond.
I'm not the best person to respond to that, but I'm hoping that when they report in 3 weeks that there will at least be books. At least be books to guide them.
Yeah. I just want not to be the devil's advocate, but we can almost be certain it will not be there. Why? It's 3 weeks too. Parents right now are shopping for back to school. At that point when schools are opening, one would ask the question, if there was a text that now all they're doing is revision of the same, would be a different question, but there's nothing. Remember, these are the very same students as well who got their textbooks in second term at the time when they were in grade what again?
7.
Grade 7. These have been the guinea pigs of
the system.
But there's just a lot of problems that these crop of students have gone through, because you look at it in terms of capitation, 0. Now we're talking about publishers have not been paid. That also goes to speak in terms of why would I bother to print new textbooks if you've not paid me? You talk about pending bills that does exist. That's a challenge. And that notwithstanding, all you can wish for our parents is all the best, and let's pray for the best that would come 2026, whichever the way. But as an education journalist, this entire system, was it well thought out? You interacted with it for a long time. Was it well thought out, or is it a question of Allah? We did not fix this, let's fix it. Oh yeah, we forgot. Let's go back, review, and fix it as we go. Was it well thought out from its inception?
On paper, this is a really good system, because you see, you and I think the three of us went to 844.
844, yes.
Yeah, we did our KCP. You remember
she went international.
Oh.
She can't relate.
Who? Me.
Okay.
Me, sorry.
So I'm sorry. We can relate. Let's talk about it. So look at it from this point. You know the pressure that was there when we were doing our KCP and KCSE examinations. You were literally nervous over the whole period of the examination. And then you look at this where you already have 40% of your marks secured. Secured, you have 40% of your marks. Maybe not the entire 40%, but a fraction of 40%. Yeah. And you only have to work for 60% in your final examination. So remember what you had in KCP. Imagine it was 60% of entire results that you're supposed to get, and you've already acquired some 40% somewhere. You see, it makes a lot of sense.
It's taking into consideration everything
you've been doing over the 8 years, talking about KC 844.
Which makes sense.
Which makes a lot of sense. But over the 9 years that it has been in implementation, there has been a lot of knee-jerk reactions, a lot of changes, a lot of uncertainty. So when we go back and look at the ideal situation, is that it was a good system on paper, but the implementation still faces the same implementation challenges that 844 faced. And now that exposes it to the
amendments,
the problems that 844 has gone through.
So will we have, and I know that this is for a lot of parents who are of course waiting for these results, whether it's deranked or not, they're still looking to say, okay, if I wanted my child, for example, to go to a STEM school and they've gotten the required 90 to 100 to secure them the 8 points that they needed, because the truth of the matter is that we're still looking at performance.
Yeah.
We are still looking
And
at
let me
performance
tell you-
in an exam, Larry. You see, and we're trying not to, but we are still looking for performance in an exam.
Yeah.
There is nobody's father that you're going to go and tell today it's CBC, and then they'll say, okay, yeah, fantastic. Like, what did you get? Because people want to know, did you get the 90? Did you get the 8 points? Because even with those 8 points, people want to know, did you get 8 points
72?
here? Did you get 72 here? Did you get it like that?
Yeah.
We're still looking for that. If we're saying that the cap is 72, folks want to know that you got close to the 72 as close as possible. And as a result of that, they're now saying, okay, based on that, who's going to give you a calling letter? Or do we still have that thing? Are there calling letters from schools based on your exam results? What's going to happen? Because people are going to be in a funk in the next couple of weeks, because fine, you will have the exam result today, and that's one thing that we're trying to do with this conversation, is that what do? You will have your exam results today. I can bet you that when we get the whole thing from the results this afternoon, people will be, this thing will be clear as mud. People will still be confused. Okay, so now we have the results. So now who is going to tell me, based on their assessment together with my selection, where I'm going to go in January? And when will that happen? People are going to go and start eating good for Christmas. Who's going to tell you when? Or are we going to wait until the first week of January? Or is that why they take an extra week to now let everybody get... Do you see how many things I'm doing here?
I see.
That's the thing that's going on in people's minds.
So first, as you said, we are Kenyans, and we were making a joke down in our editorial meeting. And one thing is that, in as much as the deranking has been done, there still will be celebrations. Schools are going to individually collect the student results and say, 5 of our students had 72 points. 10 of our students had 71. The list of our students had 63, which is meeting expectation. Those bands. Bands have been, those points have been ranked in some 4 bands. So this is it's still going to happen. So that is something that we cannot run away from. The same way you said, parents are still going to watch the number of points that a student got. Yeah. You got 72 points. My son got 71 points. This child got 45 points. That will be a very hard thing to eliminate from our culture, because we've been cultured. 35 years is not a joke. We've been conditioned over that ranking and looking at academic excellence through parameters that were grades. So that is not going to change overnight. So let me just answer the calling letters. What is going to happen is that the ministry is the one that is going to place you to a certain school. Instead of the schools calling you, now it's the ministry taking you to this school.
Okay.
And that has been happening even under the 844 for months. But as we did it in 844, still, after these students have reported, there'll still be other vacancies that are available where a parent can now seek.
If you don't like the school, if you don't like the school where they posted you, you can change.
And that's where I came from when I was telling you go back to your junior school and request that I want to do a transfer from school A to school B.
Okay.
And then the junior school head teacher gives you a letter.
Okay. So sorry. So under your results, you know how under the results you can go and you check in the portal and you see you have been then sent to Mboni Girls.
Yeah.
It comes in that one sheet even with this?
No.
Okay, this is different.
The placement will be done much later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wacha mini chome.
Chome
nauliza tu swali, yeah? So the celebrations that you're talking about as we speak right now is something that one would say is discouraged. I don't know if it's illegal.
It is.
It is illegal.
No, it's discouraged.
Discouraged, right? But not illegal.
Yeah.
Right? So let's look at a situation where we're saying we will still see schools go out there and celebrate because that's what we've been preconditioned. I look at it from the perspective that, especially if you look at a school, even in public schools, it is business, whichever way you want to look at it. Because the more numbers of students you have, the better the capitation, the more kifua uko nayo of telling people, I am the best school to offer what?
Academic
prowess. I am the best there is. So it is many want to look at it in terms of we've been preconditioned for 35 years, but it's purely business. And this will also give private schools an opportunity to come out and say, if you do not like the centers that the pathway that you've been sent, we are here. Come to us, and at the end of the day, they will do everything possible there is and post it out, because at the end of the day, it is business and numbers do speak, especially if you look at it from that angle. So it is a question of education as a business, and fact that even the policies or the directives that have been put there still hang out there. You do it the way you want, and how does that then affect the sole purpose of running away from ranking and competition that we saw?
Eliminating competition will be a hard task. That will be more so, and nothing against them, private schools. Because the only way you get to market your school is by telling people that my school, this is what we offer, and this is the outcome.
These are numbers.
The outcome is how your students perform. So KJCR will be a selling point for many private schools. That's my speculation. From where I see it, I think these schools will do as much as possible, including advertising in our papers. And we welcome them. So we expect for these schools to come and say 50, we had a candidature of 50, and out of 50 students, we had 20 who had 72 points. We had 15 who had this and this, and only one had 45 points, which is still meeting expectation. So this is excellent performance according to them, and that will be a major selling point. So eliminating celebration and that whole culture of academic prowess within school A and B, that will be hard to eliminate. But now what has been done is that when they try to condense the celebration is by trying to minimize on that extreme galvanizing look that a student A got 450 and student Z got 130. I remember tukiwa when we did our KCP, watu walikuwa nasema umepata max ni kama ya sadaka ya Kanyari, ilikuwa 210 actually 210 marks, because there was that whole scandal, the Kanyari, the pastor. So you get where
310 apparently
310. 310. You get it. So that was something that was very prominent when we did our examination. So you look at it from that perspective. There was that what do we call it? There was that black sheep mentality where a student is seen as very weak, and there was that stigma that comes with that. But grouping a certain group of students from maybe 400 to 500 within a certain band, they think that will remove that kind of stigma. I'm not very sure if it will, but they think that will work that out. But we have to wait and see. But ranking and celebration, for sure, that will be hard to eliminate.
Right. Okay. There was also a case of about, I think it was 3,300 and some odd schools which did not receive a single selection by the
5,000 actually.
It was more than 3,000?
Yeah, 5,000 schools.
I'm even more shocked. 5,000 schools out of the 11,000 senior secondary schools now in Kenya did not receive one single selection. What does that show us? That perhaps the ranking system actually was detrimental to institutions in the country, because that's what it was. It was ranked. It was county, it was extra county. Okay, it was national, then it was county, extra county, sub-county, all of this schools. And that's how, till today, if you close your eyes and wake up in the middle of the night, somebody will ask you, which are the top national schools? You know exactly what it is. And you know what the selection everybody's going to be making. Whether you call them pathways or not, people are making the selection based on what they've known. 5,000 schools did not get selected. What's happening now is that with this ministry selection, it's going to level the playing field. So every school now will have a selection of students. But with the option of still being able to move, what happens to those schools who were never selected?
You know, one thing I have to fault the ministry for, and this is me as an individual, is because I've done education over a long period. They did not collapse the classification of schools. They told us when CBC around 2023, they did a report. And according to the report, the classification of schools was going to be collapsed from national.
It was these working party people.
Yes,
the working party
exactly.
Education
The presidential
reforms.
working party.
Exactly. They told
Professor
us.
Mnavu and his team.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to collapse those classification of schools, and they were to replace them with pathways. So school A will be a center of excellence in STEM.
In STEM.
Yeah. So those were supposed to be the classes of schools, you know. Maybe Alliance is classified
Clearly
as a STEM. Maybe Highway is a sports academic center, you know. And when we came to 2025, I don't know what informed it, but they changed that and they classified those schools as C1, C2, C3, C4.
Yes.
But that is exactly what the classes are under 844. C1 is national schools.
Yes.
C2 is extra county schools. C3 county schools. And C4 is the sub-county and or day schools.
Day schools.
And out of the 5,000 schools that we are saying they were not selected, actually all of them were sub-county schools.
There you go.
Schools,
there you go.
And it goes back to the stigma that we've just talked about. Because a lot of these schools are schools that are in your local community. You remember what our teachers used to tell us. Uwezi kuwa unasomea hapa primary school, ulizaliwa hapa, ukasomea hapa primary, ukasomea nursery, ukasomea primary, ukasoma secondary school, na unataka sasa kusoma secondary school hapa. No. You see, that's the mentality that those teachers have put on those students. So every student, when they go out, they don't want to be part of that. You know, they don't want to be part of that day school in their locality. They want to go somewhere else. They want to venture outside.
Could there also be a hidden conversation that happened in terms of these schools just wanting to maintain that status, in the sense that school X,
you think and Alliance would want to lose its national school status? It won't. For nothing in this, they won't want them to be classified anything else apart from that prestigious status.
But that says a lot about the Ministry of Education and its powers in terms of coming up with policy and implementing the policy as expected, no?
Yeah, true. It does. And those people who sit in those offices. Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting day. We're looking at about lunchtime where the results of KCSE will be announced by the Ministry of Education as well as the Kenya National Examinations Council. We wish that it would be a day whereby we're seeing that going forward there would be no confusion. But unfortunately, what we are seeing is that this result will be the harbinger of a bit of confusion when it comes to who's going where and who's doing what. The education is supposed to be an equalizer. And across board, hopefully we can get it right. What would be your one thought as we're going into this today in terms of what it's going to look like, what we can hope for?
If I was the president, you see that 200 billion that they are getting from Safaricom, I'd redirect it to education and sort out all the problems that are in the education sector. Because without proper resources, without proper system, the system, well-fed system, we have a problem. We'll still be on a trial and error, changing from this to this, trying to mitigate whatever we can mitigate to try and at least hold the system together. We're just trying to hold it together. So my takeaway is that we really need serious reforms and serious input in the gaps that are in education.
Definitely.
Let's have books. Let's have proper classrooms. Let's have enough teachers. Let's have proper capitation for students. Then everything else will fall up in place. That first world dream that we are dreaming about. In 20 years, we'll have it because education will surely give us. Yeah,
for sure.
It will surely give us that.
That's the way.
Yeah.
Can be said better. Thank you so much for being here this morning. We'll wait and see what happens next. Lewis Nyawuni is an education reporter here at the Standard Group, has helped us in this conversation this morning. Thank you for doing that. You're welcome back to the Situation Room.
Thank you very much for
Asante,
the invite.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for keeping here at the Situation Room this morning. For all the conversations that we had, thank you for plugging in and being part of them. It's what takes us to the next level every time that we do. And Dennis saying thank you very much. Have a happy Jamhuri Day. Celebrate and celebrate well. Enjoy the rest of your listening today. It's 10:01. Good morning.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Kenya is preparing to celebrate its second holiday. That is the Republic Day, Jamhuri Day tomorrow. The second since the Gen Z protests rocked the nation, with the youth demanding better leadership and complaining about the difficult living conditions, as well as opposing the budget that was passed by Parliament. This comes as the Independent Medical Legal Unit says that the continuation of human rights